All right, guys. It is Nvidia earnings power hour. We are here. Nvidia hasn't really done much. It's at 181s right now. Let me know if the volume is good. We should be pretty good in here. Nvidia earnings are set to release at 4:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to cover power hour, maybe trade a little bit leading into earnings. Let's get some expectations up here. So if we look at earnings whisper, they have it's estimated at about 98 cents. Nvidia expects 98-cent EPS for most analysts on revenue of 45.91 billion. Got it scrolling on the bottom of the screen here. Again, NASDAQ mostly flat today. Basically, here's the previous closing price of the NQ. It's at 23.6. Nvidia's previous closing price is at just under, it looks like at about 181.77. 181.77. It is time. Oh, I'm not late. I'm right on time today. The Super Bowl of the stock market. We got to kind of be on time today, I think. You know. Fix this. There we go. Spilled some ketchup here. That's okay. Make it work. Hey, what's up, Fate? All right, so let's get a timer up. We're going to do a poll. Will Nvidia beat or miss their Q2 earnings? Yeah, I mean, it's not a shock to see markets flat ahead of a big earnings report like this. We got the poll live. You know, not a shock. You know, it's pretty predictable that Nvidia is going to have flat earnings. We're going to get polls everywhere. We got about an hour. I'd say like an hour and 15 minutes, 10 minutes until these numbers drop. If that looks good. Hey, what's up, Goose, Tito, Jeff, Adil, Demetrius, Fate, Rias, Infinity, Tony, CT, No Name, BT, Simon, Dakota, Jaden, Shy, Hack, Rhyme, Ray, James. What's up, guys? Good morning. Good morning. Looking at our poll number, 67% so far out of about 100 votes thinks Nvidia is going to beat. 32% think they're going to miss. My guess here, and it's just a straight up guess, is that Nvidia is going to beat their Q2 earnings, but they might react negatively to beats. So we'll see. We'll see. You know, we got time to kill. We're going to look at some numbers, talk about what stories you want to pay attention to. China's a big story. China sales, specifically, a big story of today's earnings report, I think. And as always, the earnings report drops after 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The call is going to be scheduled for 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Forgive me, I'm finishing this burger, and then we're going to break it all down. Okay, so we got some really good questions. Really good questions. A first one, I kind of agree with Justin. We all know it's going to beat, guys. Question is what will happen. I agree. I think it's probably going to beat. Question is what's going to happen afterwards. We have another question that says, do you also think it's possible that they miss or do lower than expected and still pump off of it. Everything's possible with earnings. Literally everything's possible. We could beat and dump down 10%. We could miss and run up 10%. It doesn't really matter. Just depends on who gains control of the momentum after the earnings report. So again, Nvidia right at the previous closing price. Here is the red to green level. This is red to green level right here. That is the previous closing price. You can see Nvidia is basically sitting on that thing right now. So it's basically sitting right at the previous close. Yeah, we will see what happens. I'll get a timer up here as well. I'm going to set the timer for the closing bell because really Nvidia is technically scheduled for 4:20, but they really could release anytime. They really could release anytime. All right, they could release at 4:01, 4 p.m. on the dot. You never really know this stuff, so. Look at the volume today. I mean, it's Nvidia, so it's going to have higher volume, but still. Waiting on earnings. What will make their graphics card cheaper? So here's some stories to listen for. Again, the consensus estimate, I'm showing anywhere between 98 cents and $1.01, which implies a 49 to 50% year-over-year increase for Nvidia earnings. Again, a 49 to 50% year-over-year increase. Revenue is expected between 46.05 billion and 46.5 billion, above 50% year-over-year growth. Again, I'm showing 45.91. So these are a little bit more optimistic estimates, but again, they're anywhere between, I would say, 45 and 46.5 billion is what I'm looking at. EPS estimates anywhere between 98 cents to like 103, $1.03 estimates. Again, so in terms of geopolitical risk and mitigation, Nvidia forecasts $8 billion of impact from China's export restrictions, right? So again, China sales is going to be at the forefront of this earnings report, I think. Specifically on the H2O chip, which is, you know, we've seen some restrictions there. We've seen China come out discouraging people from buying it and encouraging people to buy domestic chips there. A recent US licensing deal might soften this blow, but nonetheless, you know, we can see if we still see that $8 billion negative impact from the China export restrictions. In terms of valuation, with a non-GAAP trailing price to earnings ratio of 263, and 122% revenue growth, investors are torn, bullish on AI momentum, but cautious about overvaluations here. I don't know. I see the non-GAAP PE, the trailing 12 month between 55.80 and 56.30s. I think this is wrong. It's about 56, actually. We're going to check a couple different sources. But yeah, 56 is okay. A good PE ratio is like 15, 20, 25. So even at 56, it still seems a little overvalued. Nvidia now technically red on the day. You can kind of see it here. Other stories to watch for. Option markets expecting a 6 to 8% directional move. About 260 billion market valuation swings post earnings. We'll see if that happens. AI boom test case is what this is, according to a lot of people. After pullbacks in some AI stocks, Palantir's down. Other AI stocks are negative. AMD's been running up, though. The report is seen as a test, a litmus test, essentially, for whether Nvidia, you know, their big market cap, which 4 trillion right now, close to it, whether that's justified or not. A lot of the time, Nvidia tends to react negatively to their earnings. Remember, a lot of the time we get negative reactions to Nvidia earnings, even though Nvidia most of the time beats EPS, beats revenue, good guidance, but we negatively react here. So in terms of that, we don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, I like Nvidia. I think the future of AI is here. Again, I've talked about it before. Do you think the expectation is always set low so Nvidia beats? I think most of the time with most tech companies, Mag 7 companies, they try to stayed and overperform. Hey, thank you. Good news. Nvidia has no real competitors. Yeah, not really. Yeah, if they miss, tech stocks are gonna dump probably, but we'll see. It did. You never know. All right, Nvidia is still falling down here. Nvidia's run up the last few days. If you take a look at it, Nvidia hit 168s back on the 22nd on Friday, last Friday. It's now all the way back up to 180s. So it's been swinging back and forth as well. Gold is elevated today. Gold is up to 34.50s right now. Remember, all-time highs on gold are 35.30s. The gold is edging closer to all-time highs today. The NASDAQ is falling down with Nvidia right now. So we do see the NASDAQ creeping down on this. And again, just to clarify, I think AI is going to, whoever runs AI is going to rule the world. I've said this before. I think whoever runs AI is going to rule the world. I don't think that's necessarily controversial either. It's kind of like saying whoever runs the internet, whoever owns the internet rules the world. That's basically true right now. If you look at all the wealthiest people in the world, I think the next step here is we're going to see robots implanted with AI, and eventually, and it might be decades or more, eventually they're going to become pretty close to looking like us. And then, you know, that's the next big thing is robotics, I think. But you never know. They need to make it a little bit more efficient in terms of monetization for AI. If we take a look at yields right now, heading into Nvidia's earnings report, yields are down. They're down today. So yields have decreased all the way down to 4.24% as of now for the 10-year Treasury yields. If we take a look at the CME Watch tool and see what the rate odds are, 87% this morning. They're basically unchanged since this morning for rate expectations. And again, Nvidia and the NASDAQ are falling down quickly here. Maybe some big money's getting invested into, you know. Hedge funds are betting against volatility. Hedge funds were net short futures tied to the volatility VIX by 92,786 contracts in the week ending August 19th, the most since September of 2022, according to one of these letters on X.com. Net short positioning has more than doubled over the last 5 weeks. So people basically think we're going to have essentially positive momentum. And we'll see what happens here. Looking at our poll, we got 230 votes. 70+% think Nvidia is going to beat their Q2 earnings. But Nvidia is now fading back down. Look at that 181 level on the chart. Yeah, it's time. If we take a look at the EPS graph for Nvidia, right? Now, remember, this is Q2, so I think their last Q2, if we take a look at this here, Nvidia's last Q2 was here, 60 cents is what I'm showing. 1, 2, 3, 4, this one. 60 cents. Oh, that's too big. Hold on. This was their last Q2 report. It was 60 cents a share. It's about right here. Right? So we need to outperform this. If Nvidia, just to put this into perspective though, guys, just maybe this is a bull argument, maybe it's not. But if we do better than expected here, if we come in as expected, just for earnings today, if we come in as expected, the largest quarterly earnings Nvidia's ever done is 89 cents a share. 89 cents a share. This is for Q1 2025, 89 cents a share. If we come in as expected, we will be up here. The next candlestick will be up here. Right here. This is $1 right there. That's a pretty nice growth trend if we come in as expected. You know, we got the nice upward move in terms of reading the company trajectory. So that's a pretty good trend so far. If we take a look at revenue, I think revenue, this will be their largest quarterly EPS ever. If we take a look at Nvidia's revenue graph here in the same way, they're expecting, last time they came in at 44 billion last quarter. Today they are expecting 45.9 billion, I think. Yeah, 45.91 billion. So again, that will be their largest quarterly revenue report ever. at 45.91. It'll be almost 2 billion, just about 2 billion more than last time. And so that's good. That's good. The question is, are expectations too high for this earnings report? Right? Like, that's, I think, the big question you have to ask yourself is expectations too high for this? Because a lot of the time, again, what Nvidia does is Nvidia beats EPS, beat revenue, better than expected guidance, but the expectations were for so much more than that it actually goes down on its earnings report, or it doesn't move at all. And so the question is, are expectations a little bit too high? Forward PE, price to earnings, is in the mid 30s, which is better than it currently is. So that's optimistic for them. Street is looking for 46.2 billion in revenue and 101 EPS for the May-July quarter. A clean beat raise is the main driver. Management previously guided 72% non-GAAP GM, plus or minus 50 basis points, and he talked about aiming for mid-70s later this year. Any change here will be scrutinized. You want to pay attention to the Blackwell ramp as well, and mix. Expect color on GB200 chips, Blackwell chips, shipment ramp in the second half of this year, and see if they're going to be doing that and how they mix GPU networking software evolves. Again, China is going to be the big story today, right? Regardless of anything else, China and the impact on them, export restrictions, what they're doing over there is going to be a huge story to pay attention to. I'm pretty sure the algorithms are going to analyze this as soon as the earnings report comes out, and they're going to try to pick up on bias in the earnings report in one specific direction. Again, China was 13% of their revenue last year. Analysts largely didn't model meaningful H2O sales for quarter two, given late approvals and lingering uncertainty. And so guidance commentary here is going to be absolutely important. Again, option market pricing in roughly a 260 billion market cap swing, which is a 6% move, roughly. Again, a lot of people are saying this might be a test. During the call itself, you want to listen to revenue guidance, GM guidance, OPEX trajectory, any commentary on supply, networking versus demand. Again, Blackwell specific stuff, China specific stuff, where they're at competitively versus AMD, Intel alternatives, and the software moat, CUDA enterprise, all that stuff. And yeah, a lot of stuff to watch for. If it's higher than expected, what's going to happen to crypto and cut rates? I don't know how much impact it's going to have there. The only way we're really going to have any type of, even like a small impact to rate odds here, is if it comes out wildly over or wildly under. Like if it, which is unlikely, you know. If Nvidia, it's more likely that it comes in over than under, but if Nvidia comes out and with a huge miss in EPS, a huge miss in revenue, and the whole market starts to crash, that might influence rate odds. It might increase rate cut odds, right? Not in any significant way, though, I don't think. Maybe there's going to be some influence to yields and stuff like that, but it's not going to be, this is a stock. You know, this is not really going to impact monetary policy. They're more looking at labor and the economy, and there might be some tells indirectly into labor from these reports, but it's not like a big swing in rate cut odds or anything like that, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, they kind of already kissed the ring. You know, again, AMD and Nvidia did a deal with the U.S. government where every chip they sell in China, U.S. government gets 15%. It's kind of like a royalty almost, is what I'll call it, to their chip sales overseas in China. And so they already kind of got a deal done with the government, which is good in some ways. It can be a scary thing in some ways as well. Again, Nvidia bouncing right at 181. I think some key levels here on the chart. 181, obviously the all-time highs here for Nvidia are at 184.50. So I think 184's obviously big levels. Here's the all-time high right here. We're going to put this up on the chart, make it big and green. All-time highs right here. Watch like 181s. The low of the day is currently right around here. We can watch for that. Also roughly the low of yesterday. We can also look at maybe the highs of the day right here at 183.20s. I think if we hit this, we're going to break all-time highs, most likely. But it's somewhere close. It's somewhere close. We also have Snowflake earnings after the bell. We got a couple other ones. Snowflake volatile right now, but Yeah, we have Snowflake, CrowdStrike, HP after the bell as well. The only other one that's really going to move markets, I think, maybe Snowflake, maybe CrowdStrike. Again, a lot of stuff's flat, maybe slightly green. We haven't done much. Microsoft actually ran up a little bit today into this. We're at 506 right now for Microsoft. Apple, most tech stocks are slightly green. Nvidia is slightly red right now leading into its earnings report. I got a couple people asking me what I think is going to happen. I have no idea. No idea. I expect some volatility. Of course, it depends on what they say. It depends on what China sales look like, guidance looks like. Guidance is one of the more important things. Yeah, Nvidia, people are always hyped for it. Even if they beat, people sell it off, baby. Most recent weekly Nvidia options indicate bullish. Yeah, it might be true. Looking at some news reports. Kind of slow right now at leading into Nvidia earnings. Everybody's kind of apprehensive here waiting. All right, so everybody's kind of waiting for these earnings to drop. Yeah, I have top three. I'm not gonna BS you guys. Number one, there's not really any real way to tell what a stock is gonna do post earnings. Okay, there really isn't. You know, people can make guesses, and you got a 50-50 shot of being right. And you better believe some of these gurus out here are gonna try to pretend like they're geniuses if they get the direction right. The reality of it is the variance is so high. I have no idea what Nvidia is going to do. It depends on what the earnings report shows. I tend to think things are set up for a bullish move, but you never know. We're close enough to all-time highs where I think we want to go bullish. And so if I had to pick a direction, it would be the upside, just because we're very close to all-time highs. All-time highs right around 184.50s right here. So we're very close to that. I think if they come in just as expected, they'll have their strongest quarterly revenue and EPS, which is earnings per share ever. And I think that's a good thing. But I have no idea what they're going to do. They might drop 10% even if they hit those numbers. And so, yeah. Well, we'll have to wait and see. The number's supposed to drop. It might be a big yellow letters, but also... Closing bell is in 6 minutes. Or, I'm sorry. 36 minutes. Yeah, EPS can be volatile. I would say revenue matters a little bit more. EPS is margins. So it's what their margins look like, how much, if they're making money. Revenue tends to move it a little bit more, I think. EPS can come in over, under, whatever. Revenue, if it misses revenue a lot of the time, markets react negatively to it. Not always, though. Again, I have to always preface what I'm going to say with, this is generalized statements. The opposite could certainly be true here. And again, I tend to think AI is going to rule the world. So long term, I think Nvidia is going to be much higher than this. Not an investment professional. I'm not liable if you lose. Always make your own assessment, trade smart. Understand all this stuff on screen. I can't guarantee any of this stuff right here. Nothing I can say, nothing I say is guaranteed ever. Not an investment professional. Don't copy me. I have no idea what I'm talking about half the time. And so just understand all that stuff. But I think eventually Nvidia is probably going to be higher. I think you have to speculate on the future. Some people discount AI. They don't think AI is the next big thing. I disagree. I think AI is going to be integrated into every single thing we use within 5 years, if not less than that. Eventually, they're going to have humanoid AI robots. That's going to be a big money puller, I think. Quantum's coming here. It's going to make things more efficient, maybe as well, if quantum continues, you know, its trajectory. And eventually... Like I said, eventually it's going to change the world, and it already has, and I think it will continue to change the world. Even school, right? I have 2 kids. They go to school. The degree at which AI is used now, I'll put it this way, it's so much easier to learn because of AI. I wish I had some of these AI tools when I was in middle school and high school. It would be so much easier to study, so much easier to learn, so much easier to memorize things, so much easier to learn new languages. You can literally have a tutor to anything you need to do using AI actually right now. And that's a powerful thing. And I think big money is going to continue to get poured into it. I think billionaires and big tech understand this more than anybody. And so what you see is every single major Mag 7 tech company getting involved in AI in one way or another. And it's not for no reason. And so if you extrapolate the trends we've seen in AI over the past 4 years, over the next 30, it's going to be crazy in 30 years. The growth that it's made is going to be crazy and will continue to be crazy, I think. But you never know. Things could always change. There's always, nothing's absolute, especially in the market. So we'll see what happens. Bitcoin is up. So we'll see how this affects Bitcoin. But is it possible all the call option holders get wiped out and lose? All of them? It's not very probable. Is it possible that a lot of them do? Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and remember, Nvidia is the single heaviest weighted stock in the stock market. The single heaviest weighted stock in the stock market. It makes up what? What does it make up of the S&P now? Isn't it like 8% now, which is the single heaviest weighted stock in the stock market? And so yeah, you better believe Nvidia is going to move markets especially if volatility is here. But even if it's not, it's going to move markets at least a little bit with this earnings report. People call this the Super Bowl of the stock market. I'm ready for it. I'm excited. We'll see what we get. Let me know in chat right now, are you bullish or bearish on Nvidia? We asked already in the poll if you think Nvidia is going to beat or miss. Are you bullish or bearish on Nvidia right now? That's what I want to know. Put bull or bear in chat, depending on what you are. I'm curious. Bull, big bear, bullish, bullish. I feel like they're missing. Bear, bear, bull, bull. What's up, world? Sorry. Bull, 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 bull. Bull, bull, bull. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. All right, and this is always true. Long term, I'm very optimistic regarding Nvidia. There's always risks, but I'm pretty optimistic regarding Nvidia long term. Short term, I have no freaking idea what it's going to do. Like I said, I tend to be somewhat bullish just because we're so close to all-time highs. I think sometimes big milestone levels, like all-time highs, can behave kind of like magnets, where people get optimistic, they buy, it's a self-fulfilling thing, it continues to push up, and people, you know, push it towards those milestone levels, and being so close to all-time highs on Nvidia, I think it's possible. But short term, you have no idea what it's going to do. Volatility is there. Just be careful. You don't want to be one of those people that are so addicted to gambling that you buy up some huge position ahead of earnings and then get destroyed, right? Like, hold long term makes sense. I have no idea what it's going to do short term. And I think probably even if we do crash or have some big bubble correction like a lot of people are talking about, I think the people who do the best in that situation, again, I can't guarantee anything, not an investment professional, but I think the people that are going to do best in a situation like that are people that are going to DCA, dollar cost average, into those pullbacks, you know, or average into those pullbacks. I say it's not technically DCA. DCAing is buying regardless of price. But again, we'll see. We'll see. Let me know if you agree with me in chat. Here's another question. A lot of stuff that's been spoken recently is, do you think AI and tech are in a bubble right now? Do you think Nvidia, other microchip stocks are in a bubble right now because of AI? It's an interesting question. You know, the internet, the .com crash was one of the single longest bear markets in history. You might, even if AI is that next big technology, it's still possible greed gets the best of us short term, and we do have a bubble burst. That's generally the nature of markets, and it's cyclical. And the internet was that next big technology. We use the internet in everything we do now, almost. But we had one of the longest bear markets in history following 2000. And so it's certainly possible that happens again. I don't want it to necessarily happen again. If it does, I'm going to buy into it. But I don't necessarily want it to happen again. We'll see. AI is not making money. Certainly true. Margins aren't good right now for AI. Not in terms of subscriptions. But anytime we have something that influences the world like this, to be completely honest, it's not about subscription revenue. It's about data. That's the truth here. It's about data. It's all about data. And I think AI is going to gather data. And I think so with that, AI is going to be monetized pretty efficiently in the future. And I think that's pretty obvious. Maybe not. You never know. Apple running up a little bit. Nvidia is still down, but Apple is running. Snow does have earnings today. All right, here's Apple. Apple up to 230s right now. AI lies and makes mistakes. Yeah, it does. It's pretty new though. But it'll probably get more efficient at that too. Palantir, yeah, Palantir, big company. It's been pulling back some. Palantir PE ratio is so freaking high though right now. Hard to buy that. Yes, but that's what my concern is about an AI bubble. As of now, Nvidia might not do good and not give AI a chance to make enough soon enough, so AI might burst before it goes up, even if it's all new. Yeah, but it's the future regardless. Even if, like I said, even if we do have a bubble burst, we're still gonna probably end up being much higher than this in the future, you know, for Nvidia, unless some type of thing changes. Unless some big dynamic of the world changes, I think Nvidia is eventually going to be much higher than it is now. Yeah, I don't really see many trades to make here. Nasdaq choppy, sideways, neutral. Right at the previous closing price. Over the VWAP, under the 200 exponential. It's about as neutral as you can get right now. Unless I'm going to short the top and cover the bottom, which we're right in the middle of the range. I don't think there's any trades to take. Not really. We'll see. And remember, Nvidia earnings are technically scheduled for 4:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we'll see what that looks like. The earnings call is at 5 p.m. The actual release is supposed to be sometime after 4 p.m. Sometime after 4 p.m. is when the earnings are supposed to come out. And again, looking at these graphs, if Nvidia comes in just as expected, it'll be its strongest quarterly revenue ever, which will be right around here. It'll be the strongest quarterly revenue ever. If it comes in as expected for EPS, which is right around $1, it'll be their strongest quarterly EPS ever. It'll be about right here. So even if Nvidia just doesn't miss, it'll be its strongest quarterly. It'll be its strongest quarter ever, essentially, for numbers, and at least in revenue and margins. In your ground, no matter what. Hey, good luck, bro. As of now, AI regurgitates training. Somebody said, as of now, AI just regurgitates its training data. It can't think, so we are far from the utopian applications that many people think of. Here's a really good question. Very good name. Here's a question. What do you think the human brain does? Human brain has memory locations in its brain that it pulls information from pretty regularly, right? And so I think it's a similar thing. I mean, it's a much simpler version of it, of course. Human brain's incredibly complicated, but yeah. Nasdaq's starting to run back up. So the Nasdaq is now technically green on the day. We're up to 23,609s as of now, 23,609s. how the market spins it. Again, one of the biggest stories of today's earnings report are expectations too high for Nvidia? Are they too hot? Are they too high? A lot of people think that Nvidia might beat EPS and revenue and guidance and still drop because expectations by the market is too high. Again, let me know if you agree with this as well. It's certainly possible, but is Nvidia expectations for their quarter two earnings, are they too elevated? Don't think AI and the internet bubble is a fair comparison. AI is luxury. Internet is a foundation to all of this. Right, but Jake, you got to understand, this was 2000. In 2000, the internet wasn't integrated into everything. The internet was a luxury in 2000, sir. You know what I mean? So you got to understand, back in 2000, it wasn't necessary. Most people bought things in stores. It was a luxury, just like AI is today. And it more so had to do, like, here's an example. Netscape. Prior to Netscape IPOing, Netscape was a browser company. They sold browser in a box, basically. You could buy the box in stores, bring it home, install it on your computer. It would show you all these different places to go on the internet before browsers were free. And you know, they competed and they IPO'd pre-profits. Pre-set amount of profits, and they were one of the first companies in the world to IPO, because before that there was this very specific standard that companies would use to IPO. You had to show X amount of profits, right? Netscape IPO'd pre a lot of that stuff, and they made billions of dollars in their IPO. Microsoft wanted to come over and work with them in some way, but I think Microsoft gave them like a bad deal or whatever, and you know, they weren't really trying to be fair with them, and so Netscape essentially said, screw you, Microsoft. And what Microsoft did next is they included their Internet Explorer browser in their Microsoft operating systems for free. And so virtually overnight, Netscape went from billions of dollars in valuations to only a couple million. Eventually it was sold to American Online for like a couple million. But the point is, it was a luxury. You know, it was a luxury at that time to do things. This is the type of thing that caused the dot-com crash, where you had all these different companies that had .com at the end of their name IPO and go in the market for billions in valuations before they were necessarily ready. And the comparisons that people are using right now with the .com crash versus the AI boom that we're in right now is a lot of people are saying that a lot of these AI companies that are IPOing, that are moving markets, are overpriced relative to where they should be. And if we look at PE ratios, some of this can be said to be true. It depends on how much you think that standard of profit versus, you know, price has changed. And it's certainly an interesting conversation, but yeah. Everything right now is too elevated. That might be true. Maybe everything right now is too elevated. I don't know. Nah, I'm a big believer in diversification. My portfolio certainly is not all AI. AI is in a bubble because it can be overvalued. The question is how profitable it can be in everyday life. Does it catch up to the valuations is the question. And again, I think it's going to be about data, chat. Data rules the world. I think it's going to be about data, obviously. Market isn't that high compared to inflation. Yeah, but we've had a very interesting time with inflation over the past 5 years specifically. It's been a really interesting time. A really interesting time. Again, Nvidia is sitting right dead set on that previous closing price. It is essentially completely flat on the day, leading it to a quarterly earnings. Again, this blue line right here, it's the level at which it closed yesterday. This is where Nvidia is at right now. It's literally right on that previous closing price. It's almost completely flat as we speak here. It's 3 cents away from being completely flat on the day, leading into this earnings report. As an AI developer, I know that the next big move would be to use AI to understand complex systems in biology, medicine, and psychology. 100%. I think quantum is going to obviously benefit those industries as well. You know, quantum, if it continues to be what they say it is, it's going to benefit those industries massively. Probably already is, but that's above my payroll. Yeah, I think I'm slightly bullish on Nvidia just because we're so close to all-time highs here. All-time highs on Nvidia are right here. Right around 184.50. This level right here. That is the all-time highs for Nvidia. That makes me think we're going to at least test it. We might whip up there, break it, and then come right back down. You never know. Again, don't get too torn on... Here's the problem. Traders tend to take huge, massive positions ahead of earnings, gambling, hoping to make it rich. The issue is that there's so much variance from earnings. Again, we could beat EPS, beat revenue, beat guidance, drop 10%. We could miss EPS, miss revenue, miss guidance, run up 20%. Nobody knows. It depends on who gains control of movement, of course, after earnings. Depends on what they say in the report and the earnings call, all that stuff. I'm slightly bullish, but I'm as transparent as I can be. I have no idea what Nvidia is going to do. Most of the time, Nvidia actually reacts negatively to their earnings. Yeah, some big money, big money might know. But they're going to be in it long term anyway, so they don't care. Probably. All-time highs today could crash 10% tomorrow. Possible for sure. Again, the biggest story of the day is going to be China sales. That's going to take up a lot of headspace in the earnings. China sales. China sales have been up and down, optimism with pessimism. Again, China has discouraged people from buying Nvidia H2O chips and instead has encouraged domestic chips overseas. The US government did a deal with Nvidia and AMD of basically a 15% royalty on all chip sales overseas in China. Previously, Nvidia's guidance for this said that they would have an $8 billion negative impact from this. $8 billion. And so that $8 billion number is interesting because it's going to show us, it's going to essentially show us if they've changed or revised that expectation this next quarter. In this report. And so last time they said 8 billion negative drawdown from export restrictions. But now that they got their 15% royalty to the US government, we'll see if we get a better or worse update to that. ETH fell. I mean, I wouldn't say it fell off a cliff. That's being dramatic. ETH fell from 4,600 to 4,500. Not even that. I wouldn't say it fell off a cliff. It just dropped. Apple's pushing up towards highs. Nasdaq's still down on the day. Gold pumping up this morning. 34.50s are roughly the highs for gold. I don't know about UNH long term. No idea. It'd be down. Yeah, analysts expect about a 6% volatility from this report. 6% swings is what they're expecting. Roughly 260 billion. And yeah, 15 minutes before the closing bell. Yeah, I think Nvidia is way ahead of the other semiconductors, yes. I think it's very clear they are too. I don't think they have many competitors in that context, at least domestically. Intel, you know. But iPhone 17. Yeah, Apple's running up right now too. All right, guys, we got about 13 minutes left until the closing bell. Again, right at the closing bell, we have Snowflake earnings coming out. SNOW, they're releasing earnings. Yeah, Rigetti, IONQ, QBTS, all good quantum companies. Again, quantum's still in its infancy, though. It's still risky, but I like it. It's big risk, big reward, I think. But it's early. It's not necessarily a sure thing yet, you know. Nvidia will blow everything out the water, maybe. It's possible. We'll see. John Jones retired. Yeah. I'm not even mad at him for it necessarily. I mean, I want to see him versus Aspinall, but he's undefeated. He's in his late 30s. If I was him, I might retire too. There's always going to be another opponent. You know what I mean? Do I think he wants to fight Tom Aspinall? No, of course not. But I mean, it's his right to retire. You know, if he beats Aspinall, then there's some other new up and comer that they're going to say, "Oh, fight him," and so it never ends. You gotta lay it down sometime. If I was him, I'd probably retire. He can get paid for the rest of his life just by being John Jones. Anyways, Apple testing highs of the day. Nvidia technically red on the day, but not very red, about 30 cents red. China's about to develop their own chip machines. Yeah, that's a risk for sure for Nvidia. But I think Nvidia's got a pretty big head start, you know. And usually, somebody that early is usually going to do better. But you never know. China's a big market. Last year, Nvidia earnings even outbid the expectations by around 5%. The stock still crashed more than 2%. Yeah, most of the time, Nvidia actually reacts negatively to their earnings report. And again, guys, listen. EPS expected around 101, 49 to 50% year-over-year increase is what that would show up. If we do 101, that'll be the largest EPS quarter ever. Revenue expected around 46 billion. If they hit it, it'll be their largest revenue quarter ever and 50% year-over-year growth. Again, Nvidia forecasted $8 billion in impact from the China exports restrictions, specifically the H2O chip restrictions. Maybe the recent licensing deal for them might soften this a little bit. Again, Nvidia's got about a PE ratio of about 50 to 56. TTM, trailing 12-month PE ratio. Their future PE ratio is expected at about 30, which is better for sure. If it's 30, that's good for Nvidia. But again, investor sentiment remains strong. Markets are worrying about realism, though, and about whether we're expecting too much from them. Whether AI-driven price levels are sustainable as of now. Implied volatility again around 6 to 7%. Translates to 260 billion market valuation swings potentially post earnings. Again, people are looking at this as a litmus test, so to speak. The China risk is big. I expect China news impacts, all that stuff to massively swing Nvidia if we get some more information. 10 minutes, guys. 10 minutes. AMSL machines shown. AI versus internet comparison. AI is nowhere near breaking like the internet. It's an extension of the internet. Yeah, but that's kind of like comparing AI or the internet and phone lines. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, the internet's technically an extension of phone lines, but like it's a little bit deeper than that. And AI adoption is here. They piggyback off of each other. Technology in general, right? Piggybacks off of the previous one. That's the nature of technology. And so just because AI uses the internet doesn't mean we're not in a bubble. I mean, I hope we're not. I hope we keep going higher and higher. And I think AI is going to run the world. I think it's going to be involved in everything we do. And it already kind of is. But I think it's going to keep growing. ETH and Bitcoin pump if results are good. Maybe. Possible. Is there any scenario where Nvidia has a muted reaction to earnings? I mean, yeah, it's certainly possible. We have basically a very short nothing reaction to earnings. I mean, it's certainly possible. It doesn't mean it's going to happen, but any outcome is possible here. We could have a big rip to the upside on good numbers, a big rip to the downside on good numbers, a big move to the downside on good numbers, a muted reaction. Anything's possible. We could have no reaction now and then big reactions tomorrow in pre-market and for the rest of this week. It's all possible. I mean, I'm just looking at trends here with AI. I'm really just looking at trends. Here's a question. If you don't think AI is the next big thing, and it already is, do you think AI has gotten better in the last 3 years? It's gotten exponentially better, by the way. And again, if you extrapolate that over 20, 30, 40 years, I'd imagine it'd be pretty good within that time frame. So I think AI is the future. I think it's very clear. The way we query things, the way we program things, the way we digest things, the way we're taught things, it's all going to change. And it already is changing, you know. And we can either stick our head in the sand because of that, or we can see it for what it is. Yeah, and I think it's an interesting time right now, you know. And again, I said this early on the stream, I'm going to say it again. I think the future, the next step is they're going to implant AI systems into humanoid robots more efficiently. And eventually it's going to get pretty close to what we are. And then that's where things are going to get weird, you know. Maybe I've seen Terminator too many times. Bicentennial Man, maybe a more optimistic look at it if y'all have ever seen the movie Bicentennial Man. But to be honest, I never thought we'd be at a point in time in which this was possible in my lifetime. But technology moves fast, man. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm going to use this example. I talked about it earlier. I have 2 kids, right? Like, bro, if I had AI when I was a student, I would have learned so much more in the most crucial time to learn things. We digest information the easiest and we learn things the fastest when we're young. It conditions our brain for the rest of our life. If I had AI to learn different things, it's going to change the world in a positive, in some positive ways, of course, in some negative ways, I'm sure. But hey, it's interesting. We'll see what happens. Yeah, I think one of the easiest ways to see optimistic future of AI is you can see how much big money is getting behind it. All the billionaires in the world are developing it. Why do you think that is? Because they understand it's the future of technology, at least right now. And they've got much more information, much more data, much better analysts than me. I'm the top 3 in the world, you know, but much better analysts, I'm sure, than I am. Again, let me know in chat right now, beat or miss. Looking at our poll, 76% of people out of over 1,000 votes think they're going to beat today. 24% think they're going to miss. Closing bell is in 5 minutes. Snowflake drops right at the close. We're going to cover that as soon as it comes out. Yeah, I mean, you got to think about it like this. AI, people use AI now to learn different languages, to learn programming, to learn all these different things. You don't need a tutor with AI, not nearly as much as you did. And so, yeah, it's a powerful thing. And it's only going to get better, and that's scary to a certain extent, I think. Snowflake's interesting, software company. Where's Snow at right now? Snow at $200 a share, been pretty much flat on the day. Snowflake is expecting 27-cent profit on a 1.09 billion in revenue. So me see. What's no PE ratio? Yeah, so Snowflake has around has a negative PE ratio. Is that true? Nah. Yeah, Snowflake's still losing boatloads of money. So, interesting. I'm not really interested in it. All right, 3 minutes left until the closing bell, chat. 3 minutes. Hey, thanks for the donation, brother. How much do you think Nvidia will affect cryptocurrencies? I think it'll affect it somewhat, but it's going to be muted relative to the stock market. And that's generally how like Bitcoin behaves. Maybe some specific AI cryptos that are niche and obscure might move a little bit more. I think it might affect Bitcoin, but it's going to be muted relative to the stock market, most likely. But I appreciate the donation. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I think it depends on the range. We get a big reaction here, like a big, huge reaction on one side or the other. Shocking reaction. That might move Bitcoin a little bit more. Not more than the stock market, but more than it normally would. But I do expect it to be muted versus the stock market. Of course, because, you know, crypto's not a stock. But I appreciate the donation. I mean, Bitcoin obviously benefits if Nvidia does well in a lot of ways. And so maybe it'll get some movement. We'll see. Bitcoin has had a tough couple weeks here too. Bitcoin down all the way to 112s. I'll put Bitcoin up right here, by the way, as well. I think it's probably better to watch this than gold. Bitcoin is still pretty close to all-time highs though, but it did fall back down. It's at the 111s now, or 112s. Jensen, what's out the next architecture and how big that's going to be? Hope some analysts ask him about TCO. Yeah. All right, guys, we got about a minute until the closing bell. Remember, Nvidia is technically scheduled for 4:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. 4:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when Nvidia is technically scheduled to release. All right, guys, 1 minute left. 1 minute until the closing bell. We'll see what we get. Nvidia completely flat to close the day. Completely flat here. Previous closing price is here. And Nvidia literally hasn't moved in the last 24 hours. About 40 seconds left. Snowflake technically scheduled for 4:05, but it could release anytime after the bell. Anytime. So... All right, here we go. 20 seconds, chat. Hit the live button next to the play button. Listen, put it in 2x speed. Put it in 2x speed. You'll get the alerts as soon as we drop them. And hit the live button. And you'll be completely real time on stream. I won't sound like a chipmunk after a certain point. Hit the live button, put it in 2x speed on the stream. You're welcome. It'll keep you live. All right, so there's the timer. There's the closing bell. Markets are closed. There is the bell today, chat. There's the bell. Let's see what happens here. Let's put Snow up. We'll see when Snow moves. Snow's the other one releasing earnings today. Technically, Snowflake is scheduled for 4:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. CrowdStrike is scheduled for 4:05. Nothing big really drops right at 4 p.m. today. Most of them, Nvidia is technically scheduled for 4:20 Eastern Standard Time. So, watch for movement. Nothing yet. Nothing yet. All right, we're about a minute after the open bell, or after the closing bell, chat. Yeah, we'll see. Again, technically they're scheduled for 4:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, they could release anytime. Look at Nvidia move, chat. Nvidia's moving a little bit. Not a lot, but it's at 182s. I'm going to put any earnings that come out for today's closing session in the chat right now. We're getting some movement for Nvidia. They're not a lot. I watched Snow. Again, remember, Snowflake dropping in about 3 minutes technically if it follows its schedule here at 4:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Nvidia's up, though. Look at Nvidia. It's at 182s. Yeah, 4:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when it's technically scheduled to drop. 4:20 p.m. 13 minutes. I'll put a timer up for when the actual scheduled number is, but it's supposed to be... Yeah. Here's the technically scheduled time right here. 12 minutes. Nvidia's up a little bit though right now. Let's see if it continues. After the closing bell today, guys, be ready. Again, Snowflake technically scheduled to release in about 2 minutes, guys. 2 minutes. We'll watch that to see if we get movement there too. Nvidia's had a little upward movement, though. Or 4:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Are you guys nervous right now? Is the question. Are you nervous? We've honestly seen some positive movement after the closing bell today. Nvidia's up. Snowflake is up. Maybe this is optimism surrounding their earnings report. Again, we're expecting about $1 EPS on revenue of $45.9 billion. Again, let's wait for it. All right, guys, here we go. Watch Snowflake. It's about to drop in 1 minute. $202 now for All right, here we go. 30 seconds, guys. 30 seconds. $25 seconds until Snowflake technically scheduled to release. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. We do this live every single day. Right here. All right, here's Snow. Snow is out. It's at 203s, 204s, up a little bit from their earnings report. So it's looking like Snowflake is out. Yeah, they are pumping up right now. Wow. Take a look here. Snowflake Q2 revenue, $1.09 billion. 1.09 billion. EPS was a loss of 89 cents per share. 89 cents. Q3 productivity revenue 1.125 billion to 1.13 billion. So Snowflake is out with their numbers. All right, so again, Snowflake revenue 1.09 billion, or products revenue 1.09 billion. It is up massively here. Look at this, 220s right now. Huge movements. Huge move. There's lightning outside for me too. Big movement for Snowflake on the upside. 221s right now. Wow. I even got lightning out here, dude. Yeah. They said we reported non-GAAP financials. I'm in Texas. Nvidia and Snowflake are up big. Snowflake up to 223s right now. This is powerful for a losing money company too. HP just reported their numbers as well. Here's HP's numbers in chat. Snowflake, pump it up. Yeah, 89-cent loss EPS. So Snowflake expected what? All right, look. Snowflake up to 223s from 200. They're up about 12% right now. If my math is right, about 12% increase for Snowflake. We still got about 7 minutes left until Nvidia earnings are scheduled to release. Yeah, Andrew, it's rainy over here, bro. All right, we're at 182s for Nvidia. Still green on the day though. That's good. 420 market time. Technically, when the scheduled to come out, 420. Here we go. Is my timer wrong? Maybe I set it for 4:15. Hold on, I think my timer's off. Yeah. Okay, there we go. I had to fix my time. We got 11 minutes left, guys. I was looking at it like 5 minutes. Is my time off here? Snowflake up to 226.80s at highs right now. Still running up on this report. So we had Agilent, we had HP, CrowdStrike agrees to acquire Odom to supercharge Falcon. So CrowdStrike just announced a acquisition after the closing bell. Snowflake, again, adjusted EPS 35 cents. Revenue of 1.1 billion versus expected 1.08 billion. Let's see if we correct back down. The call is at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm not super nervous. I'm used to this, though. I cover this every time. Basically a coin flip. Yeah, it's interesting. We'll see. All right, here we go. We got 10 minutes exactly right now. 10 minutes exactly. Look at Nvidia right here, though. Nvidia's running up. Snowflake up big, almost to 230s right now. Up about 12.5% from earnings. Nvidia's green, though. Maybe this is tech optimism here. All right, we're getting ready here, guys. We're getting ready. Bitcoin's still sitting right around 111, 840s. Again, the biggest story for today's earnings report, the biggest single story, China sales. That's going to be very obviously the big story of today. CrowdStrike is out with their numbers. CrowdStrike ended up posting. Let's find it. Revenue 1.17 billion for CrowdStrike. 963 million in the second quarter. Subscription revenue 1.1 billion. Cash flow 332 from operations million. 333. Here's the numbers. 93-cent adjusted EPS versus 83 cents expected. So CrowdStrike actually put pretty good numbers in here. There's CrowdStrike here, but they're down pretty significantly. Look at CrowdStrike dump. Guidance. CrowdStrike expects quarter 3 revenue between 1.21 and 1.22 billion. EPS range 93 to 95 cents. All right, guys. Nvidia is the big story of the day here. We're right at 182.50s. Still trying to make a push. Yeah, earnings call is massive. Yeah, jobless claims, unemployment, GDP data tomorrow at 8:30. Be live here. Hit the subscribe button. We'll cover it live as we always do. At 8:30 Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. Yeah, my bullish is my bias is slightly bullish. We got 7 minutes left, chat. 7 minutes. Again, my bias is slightly bullish just because we're so close to all-time highs. Remember, all-time highs for Nvidia are right here. 184.50s. We're at 183s basically. I mean, it's certainly possible to earnings rip up there and test this all-time high level at the very least. All right, now it might not register as an all-time high since we're in after hours, but still, we're pretty close to it. All-time high levels for Nvidia. And so that makes me think maybe sometimes big milestone levels can act kind of like a magnet. But again, guys, listen. EPS expected around $1. Revenue expected around 46 billion. Both of those are roughly 50% year-over-year increases. Nvidia forecasted $8 billion impact from China export restrictions. So we're going to listen for an update on that specifically because that's going to be massive for Nvidia on whether they're more optimistic about their China sales. China has come out and discouraged people from buying Nvidia chips, encouraging them more so to buy domestic options instead. It's a big report. We got 6 minutes left. 5.5 minutes. Nvidia's up though. They're up ahead of this report. Snowflake reported earnings. They're up big. CrowdStrike reported earnings. They're down big. But again, we're waiting on Nvidia right now. Nvidia, 6 minutes. Nvidia's PE ratio about 50 to 56, which is a little high relative to average PE ratios. But their forward PE is a little bit better at 30, which is pretty good, pretty solid for them. Implied volatility is 6 to 7%. 260 billion potential market valuation swing. And a lot of people are saying this is a test for AI, but a lot of the fears are that we're a little bit over excited. You know, maybe a little bit too high of expectations. The expectations might be a little hot, is what they're saying. So we will see. We will see. Let me know what you guys think. Give me a follow on x.com at Beginner Trades. We cover all this stuff live as soon as it drops. At Beginner Trades. BEGINNERTRADES. Give me a follow there. Better GPU, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't. Again, the big story is going to be on China chip sales. Whether they're going to update that $8 billion negative drawdown they think they're going to have from China sales. That's going to be the big update here, I think. But you never know. All right, I'm going to put Nvidia up now. We are at a moment in time here for Nvidia earnings. We got a... Here's a 5-minute chart. Again, here's the high of the day. This is an interesting level at the bottom, and then we got the all-time high level up here. So we will see if we hit these levels or not. 4 minutes. I don't know what kind of songs are playing here, to be honest. A little bit too matrixy for me. All right, chat, 3.5 minutes. All right, we're on the eve of 420. Get your minds out the gutter. Nvidia earnings drop right at 420 here today, guys. At least that's when they're scheduled to drop. Sometimes Nvidia is late, by the way. So it's very possible Nvidia is late for their earnings report. Certainly possible. We'll see what happens. But it's certainly possible Nvidia is late for their earnings. It's happened before. Anybody that's followed them understands they might be late. I just hope they got their phone fixed. Sometimes when the CEOs, or not the CEOs necessarily, but sometimes when some of the under executives speak, it's not clear at all. And for the largest tech company in the world, I think you need to have a clean call. And so I hope they got that fixed, because there's been times in their history where they've reported late and their calls have been choppy during the actual call itself. So yeah, we'll see. They always beat, yeah, maybe. Nvidia at 182.30s, chat, 182.30s. Technically green. A lot of the time they beat and then still drop. A lot of the time they beat and still drop. Again, let's look at some guidance numbers here. Watch for movement here. We are coming up on 2 minutes left. So again, revenue is expected at 45 billion plus or minus 2% for quarter one fiscal year 26 outlook. Fiscal quarter 3 expected revenue in the 52.5 billion to 53.4 billion range. Again, is China demand coming back? We want to listen to is Blackwell ramp accelerating? Any movement towards mid 70% for margins, non-GAAP margins, that is. Our operating costs scaling in line with gross expectations. China update, product roadmap insights, and more. All right, here we go. All right, guys. Here we go. 1 minute. All right. So we're still waiting here. All right, 45 seconds. Again, put it in 2x speed, hit the live button. Watch for movement, because once you see Nvidia stock moving, that's when we're going to get the updates to it. All right, 30 seconds, guys, 30 seconds. Timer's going off. It's a little bit early. We still got about 20 seconds left. Again, put it in 2x speed, hit the live button. Here we go. They're technically scheduled to drop in about 15 seconds. Guys, 15 seconds. All right, and here's the drop in 5 seconds. And here's the report. All right. It is now 4:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Nvidia has not released yet. You'd see movement here. Nothing yet. Nothing yet for Nvidia. Nothing yet. Again, you can kind of see they just have first quarter up here. Nothing yet. No movement yet. No earnings yet. All right, watch for it. Nothing yet. We're seeing some upward movement here, though. The numbers aren't out yet. All right, there's a green push. We're up to highs of the day. All right, we're up to 183.50s. All right, Nvidia earnings are now out. Look at this drop down to 178 right now. 178 for Nvidia earnings. Wow, what a drop here, dude. All right, here, give me a second. We're going to figure out what this is. Nvidia earnings, revenue 46.14 billion, better than expected. EPS lower than expected at 94 cents. Or no, I'm sorry. These are the estimates. Hold on, let me see. Okay, yeah, Nvidia earnings are out. Second quarter adjusted EPS 105. Second quarter revenue 46.7 versus 46.23. Adjusted gross margin 72%. Better than expected everywhere here for Nvidia earnings. So better than expected everywhere. Again, Nvidia second quarter adjusted EPS 105. Nvidia second quarter revenue 46.23. Second quarter adjusted margins 72.7%. 72.7%. Nvidia is not reacting well to this at all. It's all the way down to 173s as we speak. 173s. Again, it beat EPS, beat revenue, beat margins, and it's still dropping massively as it tends to do here. Look at Nvidia fall, guys. Nvidia down to 172s now. Again, second quarter adjusted EPS 105. Second quarter revenue showed up at 46.7 billion. 46.7 billion. Slightly better than expected for revenue, but I think the market wanted more here. I think the market wanted more. And we are now negatively reacting to a pretty solid beat for Nvidia here. I'll put the numbers up on screen right now. But yeah, not a good reaction so far, although we are bouncing a little bit. We'll see if they hold. Good margins, good EPS, good revenue, better than expected everywhere. We have now, the numbers are now scrolling at the bottom of the screen here. Let's see if we end up rebounding back up here. Let's take a deeper look into this earnings report. But yeah. Wow. You get Nvidia. I'll put the numbers fully up right here. I'm not slow. You're probably late, Troy. Hit the live button next to the play button, bro. To get Nvidia 105 versus 1, 46.74 versus 46 expected, roughly. Quarter three revenue view of 54 billion versus 53 billion expected. So still slightly better almost everywhere for Nvidia earnings. Still not really a positive reaction to this, though. Yeah, we'll see if we get a bounce. I mean, we're down to 174s right now for Nvidia. Down to 174s. Looking at Bitcoin right now. Where's Bitcoin? Bitcoin is down as well, following the rest of the market. Again, adjusted EPS 105 versus 101 estimate, 46.74. Nvidia said, let's read this here. Quarter two data revenue here. I'm gonna start putting some of these data points up in chat. Again, quarter two data revenue 41.1 billion versus 41.3 billion expected. Gaming revenue at 4.3 versus 3.74 billion expected here. So here's one of the updates. They announced on August 22nd, board of directors approved another 60 billion buyback. $60 billion buyback for Nvidia. They approved it on August 22nd. August 22nd. They approved a $60 billion buyback for Nvidia. Wow. Look at Nvidia move here. I'm gonna cut some of these levels. We're just gonna clear this so you can see it. Right at 174s right now as we speak. 174s. Again, professional visualization revenue at 601 million, automotive revenue at 586 million, gaming revenue at 4.3, net revenue 26.42 billion. Still a decrease here. Not a huge move. I mean, it's not small, but it's not incredibly large like a lot of people expect. I guess it is around. I mean, I guess it's a little bit bigger. Maybe it's just been volatile lately. Apple's actually pumping up in pre-market. As of now, it's about a little bit over 5%. So 6% is not really that differing. Again, so Nvidia quarter three sales guidance came in at 52.92 billion to 55 billion versus 52.96 billion expected. So at the right around where they guided for previously. Here's the sales. Yeah, need to prove exponential growth. So EPS's margins, they came in slightly better than expected for margins. Revenue came in slightly better than expected as well, but it was flat. And the market does not like flat numbers, even if they're slightly better than the expected analyst numbers, right? So again, it kind of goes to show what we talked about earlier, which was essentially that the expectations might be too high for Nvidia. So far, though, we're starting to fill the gap to the upside here. We basically filled about 50% of the gap down. We're climbing back up. We're almost up to 177s now, 177s. So we're making some movement here. Again, Nvidia announced that 0 H2O chip sales were made to China-based customers in Q2 of this year. Nvidia's China business came to a halt. That might be why it's dropping. So again, Nvidia announced that 0 H2O chip sales were made to China-based customers in Q2 of this year. We're filling the gap, though. We're starting to bounce back. Sometimes the first move is the wrong move. Non-GAAP, as adjusted to exclude H2O related charges, net 1.04 beats 1.01 estimates. So again, they adjusted it to exclude H2O related charges, which is about 8 billion. And so, yeah, I mean, the 60 billion buyback probably helps. Yeah, data center earnings were a miss. Data center revenue came in at 41.1 versus 41.29, so slightly under expected numbers. Here's the data center revenue in chat right here. Yeah, it was a similar thing last quarter, although the movement wasn't very big. The movement wasn't very big last quarter. I remember that. We're back up to 178, so we're basically muted here. This is not the biggest reaction for Nvidia earnings. Stick around. We're going to stream the full call live. Yeah, stick around. All right, so again, we got the earnings call going live in about, what, 30 minutes? So stick around. We're going to cover this earnings call live when it comes out in about 30 minutes exactly. We'll see if they give us some updates here on China and everything else. But again, we're filling some of this gap. It's looking optimistic. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 green candles in a row. Again, data center revenue came in slightly under the expected number. Expected 41.3. They came in at 41.1. Again, Outlook doesn't assume any HBO chips to China. Shake and bake move? Yeah, maybe. All right, so I'm going to end this poll now. Get about 3,000 votes. I'm going to say, are you bullish or bearish on today's Nvidia Q2 earnings call? Bull or bear? Vote on the poll. Let me know what you guys think. Yeah, Bitcoin fighting back up. Nvidia all the way back up to almost 180s. We're at 179s right now. So look at this retracement here on a 15-minute candle. So we're back up a little bit here. It's certainly possible we get back into the green now. Again, Nvidia's board approved 60 billion buyback without expiration. Nvidia continues to expect to exit the year with non-GAAP gross margins in the mid 70% range, which is good. And Bitcoin all the way back up to 112s. H2O chips, not HBO. HBO is good, you know. But you know what's good? What we just watched? We watched Your Friends and Neighbors. Very good, very good. Why did everything flop on a good report? Because that's what earnings do. People tend to take, like, oh, if it reports big, buy. Or if it misses big, sell. Sometimes that's the opposite of what happens. Sometimes a company, again, beats EPS, beat revenue, beats guidance, like Nvidia, and then drops 6%. It's certainly possible. It happens with a lot of earnings. No, this is a good earnings report. It's better than expected. It's good margins. Just to put this into perspective for everybody at home, this is the single best quarter that Nvidia's ever had. This is the single best quarter for revenue and earnings per share. So this is the single best quarter Nvidia's ever had for EPS and revenue. We're at 177.80s right now, though, so let's see if we come back down. We're pretty muted from this report. I think a lot of it's going to weigh on the call itself. Again, stick around. We got 25 minutes into the call itself. All right, we're at 176 again. So far, the reaction from the earnings has been dip, rebound, drop. Again, some of the bad numbers here from earnings. Data center revenue missed slightly. So if you're wondering why Nvidia reacted negatively, again, data center revenue missed slightly. Actual revenue came in at 46.7 billion versus 46.05 billion expected. So somewhat better than expected. Again, they said there were no H2O sales to China-based customers in quarter two. Probably one of the reasons the Nvidia is dropping. Again, they said they did not sell any H2O chips to China in quarter two. Nvidia reports 24.3 billion of share buybacks, cash dividends during the first half of fiscal year 2026. So, a couple of reasons for Nvidia to be gapping down, but it wasn't necessarily a bad report. The reaction is honestly pretty muted. They thought we'd get 6 to 7. We ended up getting about 5% reaction here. Maybe a little bit more than that, actually. So close to 6%, but we've since back. We're probably down 3% right now, 2% relative to where we were yesterday at the close, which is right around where we closed today as well. Again, quarter three outlook, GAAP and non-GAAP gross margins are expected to be 73.3% and 73.5% respectively, plus or minus 50 basis points. They continue to expect to end the year with non-GAAP gross margins in the mid 70%. That's good. We're coming back down to 176 here for Nvidia. Let's see if we bounce right now. 176. All right, we got 25 minutes left. Also, guys, if you haven't already, check out Top Step. Beautiful way to help support the channel. No PDT and futures. You can day trade the S&P, NASDAQ, Dow, Russell, commodities. Most day traders are going to lose. If you put up your own 5, 10, 20, 30 grand trying to day trade yourself, you're probably going to lose it. And there's no PDT and futures. Base one on Top Step's $50. You pass it, you get a 50K funded account, 90% split. You fail it, you lose $50. It's not the end of the world. A great way to learn how to day trade. And day trading, most day traders are going to lose anyway. And so it just makes sense. They're a sponsor of mine. I'm biased. I get paid by them. Understand all this stuff on screen. I can't guarantee a thing. I'm not an investment professional. I'm not liable if you lose money. Always make your own, decisions. I can't guarantee anything. Don't copy me. And, yeah, here's the link if you want to check it out. All right, we're at 177s. Nvidia coming back down, but are you guys optimistic for the earnings call? I did a poll here. Let's see. So I said, are you bullish or bearish on today's Nvidia quarter two earnings? 70% said they were bullish on the call. 30% are bearish. The point is that the whole world bought the top beat earnings and is dumping. The whole world is watching the same action and sentiment has shifted and no one will touch it until at least 182. No, Moses. I don't even claim to be a good trader, Moses. I'm not an investment professional. My channel's called Beginner Trading. You know, I didn't want to be just another guru out here slanging courses, acting like I was the greatest, fudging my numbers. I'd rather just be honest and tell people I'm the worst ever. And if I do better than that, great. And so everything we do here is free. There's no paywalls behind any content we produce. Even if you join and become a member, you don't really get anything extra except for these coveted emojis. But I appreciate the donation. Hey. Yeah, defense stocks are moving. Interesting. People are rotating out of it. Palantir is still down, though. It's at 155s. Yeah, Jensen's a good salesman. Why is it down? Because of good earnings? Because, to put it simply, if it was easy, if it was as easy as you just sat around waiting for a company to report good EPS revenue and guidance, and all you had to do was click buy every time that happened, we'd all be billionaires, sir. Unfortunately, there's more variance, and the real moves are happening in the months preceding the earnings report, not when the report actually comes out, just so you understand it. I wish it was as easy as I was just sit around and click buy when something reported good numbers. It'd be the easiest money in the world. I'd be rich. It'd be an infinite money glitch. Unfortunately, it's not like that, and companies report good EPS revenue guidance and drop, and companies report bad numbers and go up, because the real moves are happening in the weeks preceding the earnings report, not necessarily after it comes out, as well as after it comes out as well. Everything else is getting baked into it, but it's not immediate. Yeah, it could be growth slowing. It's possible. Best instant release channel. Thank you so much, Allison. Appreciate it. We try to do our best. Money will be pulled out. Yeah, I mean, the easiest money in the market, guys, you got to remember here. Every year you got somebody telling you the market's going to crash, pressuring you, telling you it's a bubble, telling you it's the end of the world, telling you it's doom and gloom, the sky's falling, Chicken Little, you know. And the problem is that 90% of the time, 95% of the time, that's not true. And usually the people that are telling you that are the most wrong people in the stock market that miss out on the biggest bull runs in history, okay? It's so rare that people actually are able to predict crashes correctly that when they do, they make movies about them, like The Big Short. Okay, it's not very easy. Every single year for the last 7-8 years, people have told me the market was going to crash. Has it crashed some of the time? Sure, but it's not been a big crash yet. And maybe it's due for one now. I don't know. I'm not saying we don't crash. Eventually, you keep throwing darts at a dartboard, eventually you'll hit it. The problem is that crashes are wildly overpredicted, and the biggest statistical edge the market gives you is that it's going to perform about 8 to 10% on average annually, which includes crash statistics. So unless you're retiring imminently, time heals a lot of wounds. And that's what people really need to understand. And sure, some people like to isolate a very specific time frame 50 years ago when it wasn't like that, and that might be true. But the odds, I'm going to play with the odds, I think. Yeah, what's gold doing on this report? Bitcoin up a little bit. Gold up to 3450s. Gold's up and elevated today, but we're not really seeing it too much yet in gold. It broke highs, but again, the reaction is pretty muted. We moved about 5%, and now we're back up. We're probably down about 3% net from this earnings report. Yeah, again, as I said many times leading into this report, I think it has to do with the expectations being really, really high, and if we don't perform to those expectations, the market panics and freaks out. Yeah, stagflation. We got the Fed meeting next week. We got PCE data on Friday, so subscribe if you haven't yet. Hit the notification bell. We got PCE data on Friday coming here. Again, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when the call is going to start. We got 18 minutes left. August is not always bad. It's on average bad. It's called, actually, August is not really that bad. September's bad. September historically is called the September slump. It averages about 1% negative in September. But again, it's not absolute. This is really hard to make people understand. Like, it's not absolute. We could rip up 5% in September, you know, or we could drop 5%. Again, I think Mark Twain or somebody said, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. And so you don't ever want to be too weighted to the other side, too overzealous in anything. You kind of want to just approach it with balance and look at the numbers and probabilities and use risk management. Yeah, GDP unemployment 8:30. Tomorrow we'll stream it like we always do. Subscribe. CrowdStrike earnings did really, really bad. CrowdStrike reacting really negatively to their earnings report. They dropped a very large percentage down to 393s. Yeah, hey, help me hit 165,000. The bond market is reacting. Let me see what the actual bonds are doing. I'm looking at yields, not bonds necessarily. Yields are actually, they're basically muted from this. They haven't really moved from it. Yeah, I mean, here's yields. Yields are down over the last 24 hours, which means like a dovish sentiment. Yields and interest rates follow each other. So if we have a lower interest rate sentiment, it means interest rates have a higher probability, or it means yields are down. If people expect cuts, yields will drop. If people expect hawkishness and restriction, yields will spike. And the underlying bond price is actually inverse that. If you take a look at TLT, TLT's down a little bit, which means slightly more hawkish outlook in yields and interest rates, but not really much of a reaction here. I mean, Nvidia is not going to move monetary policy by the Fed. And so 8:30 PCE is Friday, Michelle. PCE is the Personal Consumption Expenditure Index. It's the Fed's preferred inflation metric. And in a period of time in which we have high inflation and weak labor market with the BLS reports, people are going to be paying attention to that because the Fed uses it to gauge inflation. If inflation is elevated, the Fed's not going to cut rates like people want them to. Not as easily or not as higher probability of rate cuts if inflation's still sticky. So Friday's 8:30 PCE inflation. Core PCE is what you want to pay attention to. It excludes food and energy prices because they're more volatile. But 8:30 Friday, we're going to stream it live. And we cover it as soon as it comes out at 8:30. So subscribe, hit the notification bell. And yeah, we appreciate it. Yes, show. Yes, I do. And has Nvidia hit its top? Is a question. I don't know, man. I don't know. Has it? Let me know. What do you guys think? Again, Nvidia announced board of directors approved an additional $60 billion buyback. We're kind of muted though, man. We didn't really move much. We went down a lot, rebounded a lot. Now we're kind of fizzing into the actual earnings call here. So we're not really moving that much. Again, data center revenue disappointed. Missed slightly for data center revenue. 60 billion buyback is good, you know. I look at housing prices dropping and inventory increasing. Yeah, but cutting rates will actually make house prices probably go up. It'll obviously bring down mortgage rates indirectly, but it'll make house prices go up most likely because people will have cheaper access to leverage and there'll be more buyers in the market most likely is what it'll be. And so, yeah. All right, guys, we got 14 minutes. Nvidia is currently priced for perfect and sustainable growth for 30 years. They can pull it off. Yeah, and again, I think AI is the future. As I said before, I don't know what Nvidia is going to do short term. Nobody does, unless you're Jensen. I think AI is going to run the world, and it already kind of is. It's going to be integrated into almost everything we use in technology within 5 years. Within 15 years, we'll have humanoid robots. Within 25 years, we'll have virtually indistinguishable humanoid robots. We might see some population decline from that aspect alone. I think once it happens, because I think if you look at patterns now in people, it's very possible that happens. Either way, what these billionaires understand is that AI is going to run the world, and it already kind of is, and it's driving big money into it right now. It's a race to the top at this point. And I've said it once, I'll say it again. As long as they program these AI systems and robots not to have defense mechanisms, not to protect themselves, I'm okay with it. But it's going to be a different world. If you look at, like, I can't remember what the name of the person was, but they had an AI system write a song. I can't remember. It's like Sadie something. And the song is not bad at all. And so creativity and expression is going to be affected by it, distinctly. But people are going to be able to digest and learn things faster. They're going to be able to save money in terms of tutors and all that stuff. It can teach you very easily and very efficiently. It can talk to you in different languages if you want to learn. It can teach you programming. It can do a lot of different things now. So, and necessity is the mother of invention. And so when something is that useful, money's going to get poured into it, and they're going to figure out ways to monetize it, probably through data, outside of hardware like Nvidia company, probably through data. That's what they monetize technology with now, is data. So I'm sure we're going to see that aspect of it. And whether that's a good or bad thing, I don't know. This will be testing the low of the month by the end, maybe. Never value down again. Yeah, Sadie Winters is what it is. Sadie Winters, the song isn't bad too, which is scary. Honestly, I don't even like listening to the song. Even though it's not a bad song, I don't like listening to it just because it's AI. I'm sorry, AI. I say thank you when I use you, okay? But part of me just feels bad listening to it. Because I know it wasn't created by a human, it was created by an AI system. But that's where we are. Yeah, we need clarification on chips to China. But Ron, they said that they didn't sell any H2O chips to China in Q2. All right, that's their update. They didn't sell any chips to China in Q2. Palantir breaking down a little bit now. I've been using Top Step for like 5 years. I've been trading for like 10, something. A little bit over that, maybe. Not quite 10, actually. Yeah, and remember, the U.S. government and Nvidia and AMD have a deal where they have to, where the U.S. government gets 15% of their income from China chip sales. 15% royalty is essentially what it is. All right, guys, 9 minutes. All right, we're at 175s now for Nvidia. We'll see if we move here. Yeah, I mean, listen, guys, nothing was supposed to happen today. I think that's a misconception here. You can buy different stories from different people. Certain people put out these different stories in the market, but that's what they are. They're stories. Nobody knows what's going to happen with this earnings report. And so if you get sold in a specific story and you buy up a big position just before earnings, you're gambling, brother. Nobody knows what's going to happen there. We could go up, down, sideways. Nobody knows how the market's going to interpret the results, let alone what the results actually are. And so just understand, this is a straight up gamble. I don't like it at all, Leonard. The government taking a 10% stake in Intel. I don't like it. I think it's too much. I think it's somewhat of a conflict of interest, personally. But I mean, big corporations already rule things. We don't need them intertwined with the government in a more pronounced way than they already are. All right, guys, we got 8 minutes. Yeah, looking at our poll, we asked people, are you bullish or bearish? 67% said they're bullish, 33% said they're bearish. All right, Nvidia popping back up. We're at 175s. Again, 7 minutes. I'm gonna switch my headphones out, prepare for this. So y'all just be ready. Oh, we'll see what we get. It is now 4 o'clock almost. Nvidia's starting to creep up though, man. We filled some of the gap on the downside. Again, they missed data center revenue is what this was. There you go. Must accidentally turn the volume down. How do I turn? There we go. Back up to 176. CrowdStrike down. And you got to look at Nvidia this year, man. Nvidia's done really well this year. But the year started here. 135s, we're at 182s right now. Still very large percentage gains here for Nvidia on the year. Put Bitcoin up here. Bitcoin at 112s. It could turn green during the conference call. We'll see. We got 6 minutes left. 6 minutes. No, I don't trade all day. Yeah, I mean, people are getting mad about the conflict of interest. What I'm saying is that the government and big tech are already intertwined. Okay? I would rather create more distance between government and tech versus making them more intertwined. And I think that's a pretty reasonable thought. And so, is it the end of the world? No. Do I understand why they're doing it? Yes. You know, but yeah. All right, we're at 176 here. We have 4.5 minutes. Apple's up $1 after hours. Yeah, Apple's up a lot. Apple's mostly a hardware company. People criticize it for not getting more involved with AI, and it does some software and operating systems and stuff, but Apple's mostly a hardware company, so I don't know if they're the easy company to get in. Like, obviously you can put AI into their phones and stuff, but people have been really hard on Apple this year. I don't know. I like Apple long term. I don't even have an Apple phone, but I like Apple. All right, guys, 3.5 minutes. 3.5 minutes. All right, let's get ready. All right, so we're getting logged in here. Yeah. Yeah, it's at 4 p.m. Central Time, which is again in about 3 minutes. I'm gonna switch this to 2 big charts here, and then bring myself down over here. Yeah, I like sideways better. I think this is cleaner. You could look at it. All right, guys, here we go. 2.5 minutes. You can hear the music, right? The music should be playing or should be clear. 2.5 minutes. Let's see if they give us an update to China. Yeah, we're starting to move up ahead of this call. All right, with 2 minutes left, I'm going to mute the music, chat. I'm going to turn the music off. I'm going to unmute their music so I can hear as soon as it starts. Just listen. As soon as it starts, as soon as this call starts, let me know if you can hear it. I'm going to turn the volume up big. Be the top 3 loudest webcast of this ever. Maybe. Possibly. Could be. But with that said, let me know if you can't hear it, because we'll turn the volume up loud if we can't. Yeah, we're up to 177 right now. Nvidia's starting to bounce back here. We got about 1.5 minutes left. Again, bull or bear? Give me your last minute thoughts. Bull or bear right now? Again, bull or bear? I'm just here reading everything and listening. Thank you for helping us. Hey, all good, man. That's what I try. I try to give people a free option. And it's just me here, and we do pretty well, even compared to some of the big networks. So appreciate you guys. Thanks so much. Again, we got 1 minute left. 1 minute left. 177. 177. Little symmetrical looking triangle here, I would say. Less than a minute. Timer's going off. Make sure the volume is turned up dramatically, just to make sure you guys can actually hear this. Hopefully they get their call working well, you know. But we're gonna make sure the volume is up. Let me check. All right, so I'm listening to. We got 30 seconds. If the volume's too loud, let me know. I can always turn it down. But I think too loud is better than too quiet, you know. All right. Time. Yeah, I see a lot of there's a lot of puns in chat about Jensen. Love to see him. Love to see him. All right, here's the start. All right, waiting. Waiting for them to start this.
Good afternoon. My name is Sarah, and I will be your conference operator today. At this time, I would like to welcome everyone to Nvidia's second quarter fiscal 2026 financial results conference call. All lines have been placed on mute to prevent any background noise. After the speaker's remarks, there will be a question and answer session. And if you would like to ask a question during this time, simply press star followed by the number 1 on your telephone keypad. If you would like to withdraw your question, press star 1 again. Thank you. Toshiya Hari, you may begin your conference.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to NVIDIA's conference call for the second quarter of fiscal 2026. With me today from Nvidia are Jensen Huang, President and Chief Executive Officer, and Colette Kress, Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer. I'd like to remind you that our call is being webcast live on Nvidia's Investor Relations website. The webcast will be available for replay until the conference call to discuss our financial results for the third quarter of fiscal 2026. The content of today's call is Nvidia's property. It can't be reproduced or transcribed without our prior written consent. During this call, we may make forward-looking statements based on current expectations. These are subject to a number of significant risks and uncertainties, and our actual results may differ materially. For a discussion of factors that could affect our future financial results and business, please refer to the disclosure in today's earnings release, our most recent Forms 10-K and 10-Q, and the reports that we may file on Form 8-K with the Securities and Exchange Commission. All our statements are made as of today, August 27th, 2025, based on information currently available to us. Except as required by law, we assume no obligation to update any such statements. During this call, we will discuss non-GAAP financial measures. You can find a reconciliation of these non-GAAP financial measures to GAAP financial measures in our CFO commentary, which is posted on our website. With that, let me turn the call over to Colette.
Thank you, Toshio. We delivered another record quarter while navigating what continues to be a dynamic external environment. Total revenue was $46.7 billion, exceeded our outlook as we grew sequentially across all market platforms. Data center revenue grew 56% year over year. Data center revenue also grew sequentially despite the $4 billion decline in H20 revenue. Nvidia's Blackwell platform reached record levels, growing sequentially by 17%. We began production shipments of GB300 in Q2. Our full-stack AI solutions for cloud service providers, neoclouds, enterprises, and sovereigns are all contributing to our growth. We are at the beginning of an industrial revolution that will transform every industry. We see $3 to $4 trillion in AI infrastructure spend by the end of the decade. The scale and scope of these buildouts present significant long-term growth opportunities for Nvidia. The GB200 NVL system is seeing widespread adoption with deployments at CSPs and consumer internet companies. Lighthouse model builders, including OpenAI, Meta, and Mistral, are using the GB200 NVL72 at data center scale for both training next-generation models and serving inference models in production. The new Blackwell Ultra platform has also had a strong quarter, generating tens of billions in revenue. The transition to the GB300 has been seamless for major cloud service providers due to its shared architecture, software, and physical footprint with the GB200, enabling them to build and deploy GB300 racks with ease. The transition to the new GB300 rack-based architecture has been seamless. Factory builds in late July and early August were successfully converted to support the GB300 ramp, and today, full production is underway. The current run rate is back at full speed, producing approximately 1,000 racks per week. This output is expected to accelerate even further throughout the third quarter as additional capacity comes online. We expect widespread market availability in the second half of the year as CoreWeave prepares to bring their GB300 instance to market, as they are already seeing 10x more inference performance on reasoning models compared to H100. Compared to the previous Hopper generation, GB300 NVL72 AI factories promise a 10x improvement in token per watt energy efficiency, which translates to revenues as data centers are power limited. The chips of the Rubin platform are in fab. The Vera CPU, Rubin GPU, CX9 SuperNIC, NVLink 144 scale-up switch, Spectrum X scale-out and scale-across switch, and the silicon photonics processor. Rubin remains on schedule for volume production next year. Rubin will be our third generation NVLink rack scale AI supercomputer with a mature and full scale supply chain. This keeps us on track with our pace of an annual product cadence and continuous innovation across compute, networking, systems, and software. In late July, the US government began reviewing licenses for sales of H20 to China customers. While a select number of our China-based customers have received licenses over the past few weeks, we have not shipped any H20 based on those licenses. USG officials have expressed an expectation that the USG will receive 15% of the revenue generated from licensed H20 sales, but to date, the USG has not published a regulation codifying such requirement. We have not included H20 in our Q3 outlook as we continue to work through geopolitical issues. If geopolitical issues reside, we should ship $2 to $5 billion in H20 revenue in Q3. And if we had more orders, we can bill more. We continue to advocate for the US government to approve Blackwell for China. Our products are designed and sold for beneficial commercial use, and every licensed sale we make will benefit the US economy, the US leadership. In highly competitive markets, we want to win the support of every developer. America's AI technology stack can be the world standard if we race and compete globally. Notably in the quarter was an increase in Hopper 100 and H200 shipments. We also sold approximately $650 million of H20 in Q2 to an unrestricted customer outside of China. The sequential increase in Hopper demand indicates the breadth of data center workloads that run on accelerated computing and the power of CUDA libraries and full stack optimizations, which continuously enhance the performance and economic value of our platform. As we continue to deliver both Hopper and Blackwell GPUs, we are focusing on meeting the soaring global demand. This growth is fueled by capital expenditures from the cloud to enterprises, which are on track to invest $600 billion in data center infrastructure and compute this calendar year alone, nearly doubling in 2 years. We expect annual AI infrastructure investments to continue growing, driven by the several factors: reasoning agentic AI requiring orders of magnitude more training and inference compute, global build-outs for sovereign AI, enterprise AI adoption, and the arrival of physical AI and robotics. Blackwell has set the benchmark as it is the new standard for AI inference performance. The market for AI inference is expanding rapidly, with reasoning and agentic AI gaining traction across industries. Blackwell's rack-scale NVLink and CUDA full-stack architecture addresses this by redefining the economics of inference. New NV FP4 4-bit precision and NVLink 72 on the GB300 platform delivers a 50x increase in energy efficiency per token compared to Hopper, enabling companies to monetize their compute at unprecedented scale. For instance, a $3 million investment in GB200 infrastructure can generate $30 million in token revenue, a 10x return. NVIDIA's software innovation, combined with the strength of our developer ecosystem, has already improved Blackwell's performance by more than 2x since its launch. Advances in CUDA, TensorRT LLM, and Dynamo are unlocking maximum efficiency. CUDA library contributions from the open source community, along with NVIDIA's open libraries and frameworks, are now integrated into millions of workflows. This powerful flywheel of collaborative innovation between NVIDIA and global community contribution strengthens NVIDIA's performance leadership. NVIDIA is a top contributor to OpenAI models, data, and software. Blackwell has introduced a groundbreaking numerical approach to large language model pre-training. Using NVFP4, computations on the GB300 can now achieve 7x faster training than the H100, which uses FP8. This innovation delivers the accuracy of 16-bit precision with the speed and efficiency of 4-bit, setting a new standard for AI factor efficiency and scalability. The AI industry is quickly adopting this revolutionary technology, with major players such as AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, and OpenAI, as well as Cohere, Mistral, Kimi AI, Perplexity, Reflection, and Runway, already embracing it. Nvidia's performance leadership was further validated in the latest MLPerf training benchmarks, where the GB200 delivered a clean sweep. Be on the lookout for the upcoming MLPerf inference results in September, which will include benchmarks based on the Blackwell Ultra. Nvidia RTX Pro servers are in full production for the world's system makers. These are air-cooled PCIe-based systems integrated seamlessly into standard IT environments and run traditional enterprise IT applications, as well as the most advanced agentic and physical AI applications. Nearly 90 companies, including many global leaders, are already adopting RTX Pro servers. Hitachi uses them for real-time simulation and digital twins, Lilly for drug discovery, Hyundai for factory design and AV validation, and Disney for immersive storytelling. As enterprises modernize data centers, RTX Pro servers are poised to become a multi-billion-dollar product line. Sovereign AI is one on the rise as the nation's ability to develop its own AI using domestic infrastructure, data, and talent presents a significant opportunity for NVIDIA. NVIDIA is at the forefront of landmark initiatives across the UK and Europe. The European Union plans to invest 20 billion euros to establish 20 AI factories across France, Germany, Italy, and Spain, including 5 gigafactories to increase its AI compute infrastructure by tenfold. In the UK, the Umbard AI supercomputer powered by NVIDIA was unveiled at the country's most powerful AI system, delivering 21 exaflops of AI performance to accelerate breakthroughs in fields of drug discovery and climate modeling. We are on track to achieve over 20 billion in sovereign AI revenue this year, more than double than that of last year. Networking delivered record revenue of 7.3 billion, and escalating demands of AI compute clusters necessitate high efficiency and low latency networking. This represents a 46% sequential and 98% year-on-year increase, with strong demand across Spectrum-X Ethernet, InfiniBand, and NVLink. Our Spectrum-X enhanced Ethernet solutions provide the highest throughput and lowest latency network for Ethernet AI workloads. Spectrum-X Ethernet delivered double-digit sequential and year-over-year growth, with annualized revenue exceeding 10 billion. At Hot Chips, we introduced Spectrum XGS Ethernet, a technology designed to unify disparate data centers into gigascale AI superfactories. CoreWeave is an initial adopter of the solution, which is projected to double GPU to GPU communication speed. InfiniBand revenue nearly doubled sequentially, fueled by the adoption of XDR technology, which provides double the bandwidth improvement over its predecessor, especially valuable for the model builders. The world's fastest switch, NVLink, with 14x the bandwidth of PCIe Gen 5, delivered strong growth as customers deployed Grace Blackwell NVLink rack scale systems. The positive reception to NVLink Fusion, which allows semi-custom AI infrastructure, has been widespread. Japan's upcoming Fugaku Next will integrate Fujitsu's CPUs with our architecture via NVLink Fusion. It will run a range of workloads, including AI, supercomputing, and quantum computing. Fugaku Next joins a rapidly expanding list of leading quantum supercomputing and research centers running on Nvidia's CUDA-Q quantum platform, including ULIC, AIST, NNF, and NERSC, supported by over 300 ecosystem partners, including AWS, Google Quantum AI, Quantinium, QEra, and PsiQuantum. Jetson Thor, our new robotics computing platform, is now available. Thor delivers an order of magnitude greater AI performance and energy efficiency than Nvidia AGX Orin. It runs the latest generative and reasoning AI models at the edge in real time, enabling state-of-the-art robotics. Adoption of Nvidia's robotics full-stack platform is growing at rapid rate. Over 2 million developers and 1,000 plus hardware, software applications, and sensor partners taking our platform to market. Leading enterprises across industries have adopted Thor, including Agility Robotics, Amazon Robotics, Boston Dynamics, Caterpillar, Figure, Hexagon, Medtronic, and Meta. Robotic applications require exponentially more compute on the device and in infrastructure, representing a significant long-term demand driver for our data center platform. NVIDIA Omniverse with Cosmos is our data center physical AI digital twin platform built for development of robot and robotic systems. This quarter, we announced a major expansion of our partnership with Siemens to enable AI automatic factories. Leading European robotics companies, including Agile Robots, Neuro Robotics, and Universal Robots, are building their latest innovations with the Omniverse platform. Transitioning to a quick summary of our revenue by geography. China declined on a sequential basis to low single digits percentage of data center revenue. Note, our Q3 outlook does not include H20 shipments to China customers. Singapore revenue represented 22% of second quarter's billed revenue as customers have centralized their invoicing in Singapore. Over 99% of data center compute revenue billed to Singapore was for US-based customers. Our gaming revenue was a record $4.3 billion, a 14% sequential increase and a 49% jump year on year. This was driven by the ramp of Blackwell GeForce GPUs as strong sales continued as we increased supply availability. This quarter, we shipped GeForce RTX 5060 desktop GPU. It brings double the performance along with advanced ray tracing, neural rendering, and AI-powered DLSS4 gameplay to millions of gamers worldwide. Blackwell is coming to GeForce Now in September. This is GeForce Now's most significant upgrade, offering RTX 5080 class performance, minimal latency, and 5K resolution at 120 frames per second. We are also doubling the GeForce Now catalog to over 4,500 titles, the largest library of any cloud gaming service. For AI enthusiasts, on-device AI performs the best RTX GPUs. We partnered with OpenAI to optimize their open source GPT models for high quality, fast, and efficient inference on millions of RTX-enabled Windows devices. With the RTX platform stack, Windows developers can create AI applications designed to run on the world's largest AI PC user base. Professional visualization revenue reached $601 million, a 32% year-on-year increase. Growth was driven by an adoption of the high-end RTX workstation GPUs and AI-powered workload like design, simulation, and prototyping. Key customers are leveraging our solutions to accelerate their operations. Activision Blizzard uses RTX workstations to enhance creative workflows, while robotics innovator Figure AI powers its humanoid robots with RTX embedded GPUs. Automotive revenue, which includes only in-car compute revenue, was $586 million, up 69% year-on-year, primarily driven by self-driving solutions. We have begun shipments of Nvidia Thor SoC, the successor to Orin. Thor's arrival coincides with the industry's accelerating shift to vision, language, model architecture, generative AI, and higher levels of autonomy. Thor is the most successful robotics and AV computer we've ever created. Thor Willpower. Our full-stack drive AV software platform is now in production, opening up billions to new revenue opportunities for Nvidia while improving vehicle safety and autonomy. Now moving to the rest of our P&L. GAAP gross margin was 72.4%, and non-GAAP gross margin was 72.7%. These figures include a $180 million or 40 basis point benefit from releasing previously reserved H20 inventory. Excluding this benefit, non-GAAP gross margins would have been 72.3%, still exceeding our outlook. GAAP operating expenses rose 8% and 6% on a non-GAAP basis sequentially. This increase was driven by higher compute and infrastructure costs, as well as higher compensation and benefit costs. To support the ramp of Blackwell and Blackwell Ultra, inventory increased sequentially from $11 billion to $15 billion in Q2. While we prioritize funding our growth and strategic initiatives, in Q2, we returned $10 billion to shareholders through share repurchases and cash dividends. Our board of directors recently approved a $60 billion share repurchase authorization to add to our remaining $14.7 billion of authorization at the end of Q2. Okay, let me turn it to the outlook for the third quarter. Total revenue is expected to be $54 billion, plus or minus 2%. This represents over $7 billion in sequential growth. Again, we do not assume any H20 shipments to China customers in our outlook. GAAP and non-GAAP gross margins are expected to be 73.3%, 73.5% respectively, plus or minus 50 basis points. We continue to expect to exit the year with non-GAAP gross margins in the mid-70s. GAAP and non-GAAP operating expenses are expected to be approximately $5.9 billion and $4.2 billion, respectively. For the full year, we expect operating expenses to grow in the high 30s range year over year, up from our prior expectations of the mid-30s. We are accelerating investments in the business to address the magnitude of growth opportunities that lie ahead. GAAP and non-GAAP other income and expenses are expected to be an income of approximately $500 million, excluding gains and losses from non-marketable and public held equity securities. GAAP and non-GAAP tax rates are expected to be 16.5%, plus or minus 1%, excluding any discrete items. Further financial data are included in the CFO commentary and other information available on our website. In closing, let me highlight upcoming events for the financial community. We will be at the Goldman Sachs Technology Conference on September 8th in San Francisco. Our annual NDR will commence the first part of October. GTC Data Center begins on October 27th, with Jensen's keynote scheduled for the 28th. We look forward to seeing you at these events. Our earnings call to discuss the results of our third quarter of fiscal 2026 is scheduled for November 19th. We will now open the call for questions. Operator, would you please poll for questions?
Thank you. At this time, I would like to remind everyone, in order to ask a question, press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. We'll pause for just a moment to compile the Q&A roster. As a reminder, please limit yourself to 1 question. Thank you. Your first question comes from CJ Muse with Cantor Fitzgerald. Your line is open.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you for taking the question. I guess with wafer in to rack out lead times of 12 months, you confirmed on the call today that Rubin is on track for ramp in the second half. And obviously, many of these investments are multi-year projects contingent upon power, cooling, et cetera. I was hoping perhaps you take a high-level view and speak to your vision for growth into 2026. And as part of that, if you can kind of comment between networking data center would be very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, CJ. At the highest level of growth drivers would be the evolution, the introduction, if you will, of reasoning agentic AI. Where chatbots used to be one shot, you give it a prompt and it would generate the answer. Now the AI does research, it thinks and does a plan, and it might use tools. And so it's called long thinking. And the longer it thinks, oftentimes it produces better answers. And the amount of computation necessary for one shot versus reasoning agentic AI models could be 100 times, 1,000 times, and even, potentially even more as the amount of research and basically reading and comprehension that it goes off to do. And so the amount of computation that has resulted in agentic AI has grown tremendously. And of course, the effectiveness has also grown tremendously. Because of agentic AI, the amount of hallucination has dropped significantly. You can now use it. You can now use tools and perform tasks. Enterprises have been opened up. As a result of agentic AI and vision language models, we now are seeing a breakthrough in physical AI, in robotics, autonomous systems. So the last year, AI has made tremendous progress. And agentic systems, reasoning systems, is completely revolutionary. Now, we built the Blackwell NVLink 72 system, a rack scale computing system for this moment. We've been working on it for several years. This last year, we transitioned from NVLink 8, which is a node scale computing. Each node is a computer, to now NVLink 72, where each rack is a computer. That disaggregation of NVLink 72 into a rack scale system was extremely hard to do, but the results are extraordinary. We're seeing orders of magnitude speed up, and therefore energy efficiency, and therefore cost effectiveness of token generation because of NVLink 72. And so over the next couple of years, you're going to you asked about longer term. Over the next 5 years, we're going to scale into, with Blackwell, with Rubin, and follow-ons, to scale into effectively a $3 to $4 trillion AI infrastructure opportunity. The last couple of years, you have seen that CapEx has grown in just the top 4 CSPs has doubled and grown to about $600 billion. So we're in the beginning of this build out, and the AI technology advances has really enabled AI to be able to adopt and solve problems to many different industries.
Your next question comes from Vivek Arya with Bank of America Securities. Your line is open.
Thanks for taking my questions. Colette, just wanted to clarify the $2 to $5 billion in China. What needs to happen, and what is the sustainable pace of that China business as you get into Q4? And then, Jensen, for you on the competitive landscape, several of your large customers already have or are planning many ASIC projects. I think one of your ASIC competitors, Broadcom, signaled that they could grow their AI business almost 55-60% next year. Any scenario in which you see the market moving more towards ASICs and away from Nvidia GPU? Just what are you hearing from your customers? How are they managing this split between their use of merchant silicon and ASICs? Thank you.
Thanks, Vivek. So let me first answer your question regarding what will it take for the H20s to be shipped. There is interest in our H20s. There is the initial set of licenses that we received. And then additionally, we do have supply that we are ready. And that's why we communicated that somewhere in the range of about 2 to 5 billion this quarter, we could potentially ship. We're still waiting on several of the geopolitical issues going back and forth between the governments and the companies trying to determine their purchases and what they want to do. So it's still open at this time, and we're not exactly sure what that full amount will be this quarter. However, if more interest arrives, more licenses arrives, again, we can also still build additional H20 and ship more as well.
Nvidia builds very different things than ASICs. But let's talk about ASICs first. A lot of projects are started. Many startup companies are created. Very few products go into production. And the reason for that is it's really hard. Accelerated computing is unlike general purpose computing. You don't write software and just compile it into a processor. Accelerated computing is a full stack co-design problem. And AI factories in the last several years has become so much more complex because of the scale of the problems have grown so significantly. It's really the ultimate, the most extreme computer science problem the world's ever seen, obviously. And so the stack is complicated. The models are changing incredibly fast from generative based on autoregressive to generative based on diffusion to mixed models to multimodality. The number of different models that are coming out that are either derivatives of transformers or evolutions of transformers is just daunting. One of the advantages that we have is that NVIDIA is available in every cloud. We're available from every computer company. We're available from the cloud to on-prem to edge to robotics on the same programming model. And so it's sensible that every framework in the world supports NVIDIA. When you're building a new model architecture, releasing it on NVIDIA is most sensible. And so the diversity of our platform, both in the ability to evolve into any architecture, the fact that we're everywhere, and also we accelerate the entire pipeline. Everything from data processing to pre-training to post-training with reinforcement learning, all the way out to inference. And so when you build a data center with NVIDIA platform in it, the utility of it is best. The lifetime usefulness is much, much longer. And then I would just say that in addition to all of that, it is just a really extremely complex systems problem anymore. People talk about the chip itself. There's one ASIC, the GPU that many people talk about. But in order to build Blackwell, the platform, and Rubin, the platform, we had to build CPUs that connect fast memory, low extremely energy efficient memory for large KV caching necessary for agentic AI, to the GPU, to a super NIC, to a scale up switch we call NVLink, completely revolutionary. When we're in our 5th generation now, to a scale out switch, whether it's quantum or Spectrum X Ethernet, to now scale across switches so that we can prepare for these AI super factories with multiple gigawatts of computing all connected together. We call that Spectrum XGS. We just announced that at Hot Chips this week. And so the complications, the complexity of everything that we do is really quite extraordinary. It's just done at a really, really extreme scale now. And then lastly, if I could just say one more thing, we're in every cloud for a good reason. Not only are we the most energy efficient, our perf per watt is the best of any computing platform. And in a world of power limited data centers, perf per watt drives directly to revenues. And you've heard me say before that in a lot of ways, the more you buy, the more you grow. And because our perf per dollar, the performance per dollar is so incredible, you also have extremely great margins. So the growth opportunity with NVIDIA's architecture And the gross margins opportunity with NVIDIA's architecture is absolutely the best. And so there's a lot of reasons why NVIDIA is chosen by every cloud and every startup and every computer company. We're really a holistic, full stack solution for AI factories.
Your next question comes from Ben Reitzes with Melius. Your line is open.
Hey, thanks a lot. Jensen, I wanted to ask you about your 3 to 4 trillion in data center infrastructure spend by the end of the decade. Previously, you talked about something in the 1 billion range, which I believe was just for compute by 2028. If you take past comments, 3 to 4 trillion would imply maybe 2 billion plus in compute spend. And just wanted to know if that was right. And that's what you're seeing by the end of the decade. And wondering what you think your share will be of that. Your share right now of total infrastructure compute-wise is very high. So wanted to see, and also if there's any bottlenecks you're concerned about, like power, to get to the 3 to 4 trillion. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks. As you know, the CapEx of just the top 4 hyperscalers has doubled in 2 years. As the AI revolution went into full steam, as the AI race is now on, the CapEx spend has doubled to $600 billion per year. There's 5 years between now and the end of the decade. And $600 billion only represents the top 4 hyperscalers. We still have the rest of the enterprise companies building on-prem. You have cloud service providers building around the world. United States represents about 60% of the world's compute, and over time, you would think that artificial intelligence would reflect GDP scale and growth, and would be of course accelerating GDP growth. And so our contribution to that is a large part of the AI infrastructure. Out of a gigawatt AI factory, which can go anywhere from 50 to plus or minus 10%, let's say 50 to 60 billion, we represent about 35 plus or minus of that, and 35 out of 50 or so $1 billion for a gigawatt data center. And of course, what you get for that is not a GPU. I think people, were famous for building the GPU and inventing the GPU, but as you know, over the last decade, we've really transitioned to become an AI infrastructure company. It takes 6 chips just to build 6 different types of chips just to build a Rubin AI supercomputer, and just to scale that out, to a gigawatt, you have hundreds of thousands of GPU compute nodes and a whole bunch of racks. And so we're really an AI infrastructure company, and we're hoping to continue to contribute to growing this industry, making AI more useful, and then very importantly, driving the performance per watt, because the world, as you mentioned, limiters, it will always likely be power limitations or AI infrastructure or AI building limitations. And so we need to squeeze as much out of that factory as possible. NVIDIA's performance per unit of energy used drives the revenue growth of that factory. It directly translates. If you have a 100 megawatt factory, per 100 megawatt drives your revenues. It's tokens per 100 megawatts of factory. In our case, also, the performance per dollar spent is so high that your gross margins are also the best. But anyhow, these are the limiters going forward, and $3 to $4 trillion is fairly sensible for the next 5 years.
Next question comes from Joe Moore of Morgan Stanley. Your line is open.
Great. Thank you. Congratulations on reopening the China opportunity. Can you talk about the long-term prospects there? You've talked about, I think, half of the AI software world being there. How much can Nvidia grow in that business, and how important is it that you get the Blackwell architecture ultimately licensed there?
The China market, I've estimated to be about $50 billion of opportunity for us this year. If we were able to address it with competitive products, and if it's $50 billion this year, you would expect it to grow, say 50% per year, as the rest of the world's AI market is growing as well. It is the second largest computing market in the world, and it is also the home of AI researchers. About 50% of the world's AI researchers are in China. The vast majority of the leading open source models are created in China. And so it's fairly important, I think, for the American technology companies to be able to address that market. And open source, as you know, is created in one country, but it's used all over the world. The open source models that have come out of China are really excellent. DeepSeek, of course, gained global notoriety. Qwen is excellent. Kimi is excellent. There's a whole bunch of new models that are coming out. They're multimodal. They're great language models, and it's really fueled the adoption of AI in enterprises around the world, because enterprises want to build their own custom proprietary software stacks. And so open source models really important for enterprise. It's really important for SaaS, who also would like to build proprietary systems. It has been really incredible for robotics around the world. And so open source is really important. And it's important that the American companies are able to address it. It's going to be a very large market. We're talking to the administration about the importance of American companies to be able to address the Chinese market. And as you know, H20 has been approved for companies that are not on the entities list, and many licenses have been approved. And so I think the opportunity for us to bring Blackwell to the China market is a real possibility. And so we just have to keep advocating the sensibility of and the importance of American tech companies to be able to lead and win the AI race and help make the American tech stack the global standard.
Your next question comes from the line of Aaron Rakers with Wells Fargo. Your line is open.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I want to go back to the Spectrum XGS announcement this week, and thinking about the Ethernet product now pushing over 10 billion of annualized revenue. Jensen, what is the opportunity set that you see for Spectrum XGS? Do we think about this as kind of the data center interconnect layer? Any thoughts on the sizing of this opportunity, within that Ethernet portfolio? Thank you.
We now offer 3 networking technologies. One is for scale up, one is for scale out, and one for scale across. Scale up is so that we could build the largest possible virtual GPU, the virtual compute node. NVLink is revolutionary. NVLink 72 is what made it possible for Blackwell to deliver such an extraordinary generational jump over Hopper's NVLink 8. At a time when we have long thinking models, agentic AI, reasoning systems, the NVLink basically amplifies the memory bandwidth, which is really critical for reasoning systems. And so NVLink 72 is fantastic. We then scale out with networking, which we have 2. We have InfiniBand, which is unquestionably the lowest latency, the lowest jitter, the best scale out network. It does require more expertise in managing those networks. And for supercomputing, for the leading model makers, quantum InfiniBand is the unambiguous choice. If you were to benchmark an AI factory, the ones with InfiniBand are the best performance. For those who would like to use Ethernet, because their whole data center is built with Ethernet, we have a new type of Ethernet called Spectrum Ethernet. Spectrum Ethernet is not off the shelf. It has a whole bunch of new technologies designed for low latency and low jitter and congestion control. And it has the ability to come closer, much, much closer to InfiniBand than anything that's out there. And we call that Spectrum X Ethernet. And then finally, we have Spectrum XGS, a gigascale for connecting multiple data centers, multiple AI factories into a super factory, a gigantic system. And you're gonna see that networking obviously is very important in AI factories. In fact, choosing the right networking, the performance, the throughput improvement, going from 65% to 85% or 90%, that kind of step up because of your networking capability effectively makes networking free. Choosing the right networking, you're basically paying, you'll get a return on it like you can't believe, because the AI factory, a gigawatt, as I mentioned before, could be $50 billion. And so the ability to improve the efficiency of that factory by tens of percents results in $10-20 billion worth of effective benefit. And so, the networking is a very important part of it. It's the reason why Nvidia dedicates so much in networking. It's the reason why we purchased Mellanox 5.5 years ago. And Spectrum X, as we mentioned earlier, is now quite a sizable business, and it's only about 1.5 years old. So Spectrum X is a home run. All three of them are going to be fantastic. NVLink, scale up, Spectrum X and InfiniBand, scale out, and then Spectrum XGS for scale across.
Your next question comes from Stacy Raskin with Bernstein Research. Your line is open.
Hi, guys. Thanks for taking my question. I have a more tactical question for Colette. So on the guide, you're up, over $7 billion. The vast bulk of that is going to be from data center. How do I think about apportioning that $7 billion out across Blackwell versus Hopper versus networking? I mean, it looks like Blackwell was probably $27 billion in the quarter, up from maybe 23 last quarter. Hopper's still $6 or $7 billion post the H20. Do you think the Hopper strength continues? Just how do I think about parsing that $7 billion out across those three different components?
Thanks, Stacy, for the question. First part of it, looking at our growth between Q2 and Q3, Blackwell is still going to be the lion's share of what we have in terms of data center. But keep in mind that helps both our compute side as well as it helps our networking side, because we are selling those significant systems that are incorporating the NVLink that Jensen just spoke about. Selling Hopper, we are still selling it. H100, H200s, we are. But again, they are HCX systems, and I still believe our Blackwell will be the lion's share of what we're doing on there. So we'll continue. We don't have any more specific details in terms of how we'll finish our quarter, but you should expect Blackwell again to be the driver of the growth.
Your next question comes from Jim Schneider of Goldman Sachs. Your line is open.
Good afternoon. Thanks for taking my question. You've been very clear about the reasoning model opportunity that you see, and you've also been relatively clear about the technical specs for Rubin, but maybe you could provide a little bit of context about how you view the Rubin product transition going forward. What incremental capability does that offer to customers? And would you say that Rubin is a bigger, smaller, or similar step up in terms of performance for a capability perspective relative to what we saw with Blackwell? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Ruben, we're on an annual cycle, and the reason why we're on an annual cycle is because we can do so to accelerate the cost reduction and maximize the revenue generation for our customers. When we increase the perf per watt, the token generation per amount of usage of energy, we are effectively driving the revenues of our customers. The perf per watt of Blackwell will be, for reasoning systems, an order of magnitude higher than Hopper. And so for the same amount of energy, and everybody's data center is energy limited by definition, for any data center that using Blackwell, you'll be able to maximize your revenues compared to anything we've done in the past, compared to anything in the world today. And because the perf per dollar, the performance is so good that the perf per dollar invested in the capital would also allow you to improve your gross margins. To the extent that we have great ideas for every single generation, we could improve the revenue generation, improve the AI capability, improve the margins of our customers by releasing new architectures. And so we advise our partners, our customers to pace themselves and to build these data centers on an annual rhythm. Ruben is going to have a whole bunch of new ideas. I paused for a second because, I've got plenty of time between now and a year from now to tell you about all the breakthroughs that Ruben's going to bring. But Ruben has a lot of great ideas. I'm anxious to tell you, but I can't right now, and I'll save it for GTC to tell you more and more about it. But nonetheless, for the next year, we're ramping really hard into now Grace Blackwell GB200, and then now Blackwell Ultra GB300. We're ramping really hard into data centers. This year is obviously a record-breaking year. I expect next year to be a record-breaking year. And while we continue to increase the performance of AI capabilities as we race towards artificial superintelligence on the one hand, and continue to increase the revenue generation capabilities of our hyperscalers on the other hand.
Your final question comes from Timothy Arcuri with UBS. Your line is open.
Thanks a lot. Jensen, I wanted to ask you, just answered a question. You threw out a number. You said 50% CAGR for the AI market. So I'm wondering how much visibility that you have into next year. Is that kind of a reasonable bogey in terms of how much your data center revenue should grow next year? I would think you'll grow at least in line with that CAGR. And maybe are there any puts and takes to that? Thanks.
Well, I think that the best way to look at it is we have reasonable forecasts from our large customers for next year, a very, very significant forecast. And we still have a lot of businesses that we're still winning and a lot of startups that are still being created. Don't forget that the number of startups for AI native startups was 100 billion was funded last year. This year, the year's not even over yet. It's 180 billion funded. If you look at AI native, the top AI native startups that are generating revenues, last year was $2 billion. This year is $20 billion. Next year, being 10 times higher than this year is not inconceivable. And the open source models is now opening up large enterprises, SaaS companies, industrial companies, robotics companies to now join the AI revolution, another source of growth. And whether it's AI natives or enterprise SaaS or industrial AI or startups, we're just seeing just an enormous amount of interest in AI and demand for AI. Right now, the buzz is, I'm sure all of you know about the buzz out there. The buzz is everything sold out. H100 sold out. H200s are sold out. Large CSPs are coming out renting capacity from other CSPs. And so the AI native startups are really scrambling to get capacity so that they could train their reasoning models. And so the demand is really, really high. But the long-term outlook between where we are today, CapEx has doubled in 2 years. It is now running about $600 billion a year just in the large hyperscalers. For us to grow into that $600 billion a year, representing a significant part of that CapEx, isn't unreasonable. And so I think the next several years, surely through the decade, we see just really fast growing, really significant growth opportunities ahead. Let me conclude with this. Blackwell is the next generation AI platform the world's been waiting for. It delivers an exceptional generational leap. NVIDIA's NVLink 72 rack scale computing is revolutionary, arriving just in time as reasoning AI models drive order of magnitude increases in training and inference performance requirement. Blackwell Ultra is ramping at full speed and the demand is extraordinary. Our next platform, Rubin, is already in fab. We have 6 new chips that represents the Rubin platform. They have all taped out to TSMC. Rubin will be our 3rd generation NVLink rack scale AI supercomputer. And so we expect to have a much more mature and fully scaled up supply chain. Blackwell and Rubin AI factory platforms will be scaling into the $3 to $4 trillion global AI factory build out through the end of the decade. Customers are building ever greater scale AI factories, from thousands of Hopper GPUs in tens of megawatt data centers to now hundreds of thousands of Blackwells in 100 megawatt facilities. And soon we'll be building millions of Rubin GPU platforms powering multi-gigawatt, multi-site AI super factories. With each generation, demand only grows. One-shot chatbots have evolved into reasoning agentic AI that research, plan, and use tools, driving orders of magnitude jump in compute for both training and inference. Agentic AI is reaching maturity and has opened the enterprise market to build domain and company-specific AI agents for enterprise workflows, products, and services. The age of physical AI has arrived, unlocking entirely new industries in robotics, industrial automation. Every industrial company will need to build 2 factories, one to build the machines and another to build their robotic AI. This quarter, NVIDIA reached record revenues and an extraordinary milestone in our journey. The opportunity ahead is immense. A new industrial revolution has started. The AI race is on. Thanks for joining us today, and I'll look forward to addressing you next earnings call. Thank you.
This concludes today's conference call. You may now disconnect.
Okay, guys, so that is it for today's earnings call. Again, we'll be back bright and early tomorrow morning. We got GDP data, jobless claims, unemployment going live. Nvidia mostly flat since the earnings call didn't really move much. Small amount of volatility afterwards. We're down slightly at 176, basically where we were at the beginning of this week. We'll see what happens. Again, if you want to check out Top Step, great way to help support the channel. No PDT rule in futures. You can day trade the S&P, NASDAQ, Dow, Russell, gold. Very similar to day trading stocks. Check it out. No PDT rule. Link is in the description as well. Check it out. And yeah, y'all be good. Remember, all this stuff on screen, I can't guarantee anything. I'm not an investment professional. I'm not liable if you lose. Good luck. And hey, listen, 8:30 tomorrow morning, be here. Subscribe. Hit the notification bell. As soon as we close this stream, it'll bring you there. And I expect all of you to sit there and wait until tomorrow morning.